Hello and good evening. Deep in the heart of the Styrian Mountains in Austria lies the Red Bull Ring, a 4.326 meter per lap circuit. This plays the host to round 8 of the 2024 GPVWC Super League Championship. My name is Edward Hunter. I'm delighted to be joined by Ryan Elliott and broadcast director Vincent Gutt, who's of course managing the cameras in the background. So Ryan, the last 4 races have seen 4 different winners. Do you expect that streak to continue? Or do you think we're going to start to see our 4 title contenders right at the front of the field start to dominate the remaining second half of the season?
I certainly hope so. Everyone loves a new winner, and it's amazing that we've had so many this season. It feels like not even that long ago we were cheering on Jan Granqvist to win his first, then he went on a winning spree, and now we're starting to switch things up a bit with a few different winners. So I'm really excited to see what this track's got in store. As we saw from what happened in Formula One, it can get leery, especially after the very long straights that this track has. You can just about see as well on screen that it is currently raining on track, which is something I wasn't particularly expecting. Well, not this early in the session, but I think first laps are going to be very important in this session. It's normally the other way around. Normally guys are just setting simple bankers to start with, but I can imagine some people will be pushing really hard at the start of the session until obviously that rate percentage gets up.
Yes, exactly. And you can see as we ride on board with Tom Stevens, of course, winner for the first time this season, last time out at the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, immediately plonking on the soft tyres and desperately trying to get to the end of the lap before the rain intensifies too heavily. The tyre temperatures are also in danger of dropping too low if he takes it too easy on this outlap, of course, as well. So there's a lot working against him. But as you say, if the rain is going to continue, then the track is only going to get worse and worse and worse. And Tom Stevens will desperately want to get that banker lap in, as you say, so that he's got a great chance of pole position. But of course, it's a private session, so pretty much all of our drivers on the server, all 25 of them at the moment that are there, are going to be of the same mind. So we're going to see a lot of people on track together then. The first corner comes Tom Stevens.
That's fine. Tom Stevens, going quite hard, quite early on. Obviously going purple, but we've still got plenty of people to go round before we know if that's true purple or not.
Yeah, at the moment, Jan Granqvist, 16.4 in the first sector. So I'm trying to see how that compares to what Stevens and others are doing. He was 2 tenths quicker than Tom Stevens in the first sector then. And look how much aggression he's putting into turn 6 and 7 there, going as wide to the outside as possible to get the ideal line. Sparks flying out the back then. Mark Schluter is fastest in the middle sector, 28.361 as well. So the Edge Esports driver who has been in the top 2 the last 3 races. He's easily the top scorer from the past 3 events though. But Jan Granqvist, of course, leads that championship by 40 points. He's going to cross the line, and it's second fastest behind Schluter then, as Loic Moynier just jumps Granqvist in his 0.02 of a second behind Schluter's best lap there, which is a 1:04.246. It's a very quick lap here at the Red Bull Ring. It's over quite quickly, so they might be able to get 2 or 3 laps in before the track becomes completely unusable on these dry tyres.
Yeah, it's a super quick lap round here. It almost feels like you're blinking around for another one. It's been a long time since I've actually done a race around this track. It's been at least a couple of years, but it always provides quite an interesting quali session. A lot of high-speed corners. You go from like a really fast section, like we're watching like Munier go through here, to almost dead stop still when you're going through standstill. Sorry, when you're going through turn. What a class it has. Classes turn 3 don't around here. We see Munier down in the second sector after going purple in the first. He'll peel off into the pits for this one. Same with Stepkowski and Mitchell. It seems like a lot of people are aborting laps. I wonder if that's anything to do with the rain. People might have just got their first lap in perfect.
Well, interestingly, Ryan, we're seeing the sun has just come out as Robin Panzer just breaks for the pit lane, a speed limiter line, and then decides to teleport back to the garage anyway to save those precious few seconds of coasting idling in the pit lane. So everyone putting fresh tyres on. And we saw everyone having to abandon those laps as it was just getting too wet in the middle sector. But now the rain has definitely stopped and we're seeing dry conditions, so the rain should start to evaporate off of the Styrian Mountains very, very quickly, you would assume. Or, like you said, we haven't been here in a while, so it's a little bit hard to tell. Last Super League race we had here was 2022, won by Leon Bock, if I'm not mistaken, for Evolution Motorsport. So that shows you how long ago it was, 2 years ago. So Mark Schluter then, currently on provisional pole position by 2 thousandths ahead of Loic Moynier. Of course, Moynier, who impressed us so greatly in qualifying in Barcelona, was running really well in the top 5 after making a great move on Jan Grankvist in the first lap, and then unfortunately got a penalty. I believe it was for speeding in the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan. So he won't want to be reminded of that, but certainly Loic Moynier... Hang on, I finished my point anyway.
Yeah, sorry. It's so easy, isn't it? Everything can be looking like it's going your way, and then suddenly just one little, even if it's 1 or 2 kilometers per hour over, can change the course of your day.
Exactly. So first sector times coming in for the likes of Martin, Grankvist, and Schluter, 3 of our title protagonists then, and it's Grankvist that once again lights up the first sector, 16.3. So if you're really aggressive, you nail that outlap out of the pits, you can really profit here. It looks like already we're back into dry territory then. So it could be that the curbs might be a little bit dangerous, at least at first. But other than that, it's full speed ahead, and more purple times for Schluter as well then in the middle sector, 28.3. So he is absolutely flying out there, and he needs to. 9 minutes left to go. This track could well heat up again, or the rain could come back in as well. So it's absolutely pivotal to get more quick times on the board then. 104.078 for Schluter, which puts him a 10th ahead of Grankvist, who also improves. Ooh. And that looks like Stein-Handgraf has dropped it at the final corner. There's a very vicious curb on the inside of the final corner. That's this big yellow sleeping policeman, or banana split curb as it's sometimes called. And that can really throw you up into the air and potentially not only destroy your lap, but your race as well. Interestingly, we see a bit of a mix-up in the lower order of the top 10 as the times continue to filter in. Dylan Fisher has set a very good lap to run 6th fastest. Zux as well is in the top 8 for Stax Racing, so he's only about 3/10 off of Schluter's time. We could get a very, very mixed up grid, even if it's a drive through to the end now, Ryan, as we look at one of your drivers, Thomas Vack, trying to lay down a decent time here.
The beauty with a short layout like this one is it can, I mean, in any session, at any track it can, but especially here, the times are so close. We can see what's that, the top 23 are split by under a second, which is absolutely outrageous. So any little gain here and there, people, might typically have dropped out into the pits if, say, they were only half a tenth up when they knew they had more to get the extra lap in. But around here, that can gain you like 2 or 3 places. There's really, every little bit counts here, even more than anywhere else. But I think it seems like everyone's managing to push through the little bit of rain that we had to start with. We get it in all the time where, you get a little bit of rain and it affects you mentally more than it does actually the performance of the tyres and of the car. So you just got to push through it until it gets to that point where you just physically cannot drive it any faster anymore. And we're still seeing purple sectors come through, so clearly the track's improving.
Exactly right. It's so many circumstances. A little bit of rain at the start of the session, and then it dries out. It can just affect your confidence because it's an extra variable that you weren't necessarily expecting to play a role in qualifying. But of course, the weather radar, it can change very, very suddenly, especially at a circuit right up in the hills like the Red Bull Ring here. As we see, I think Chris Shepherd is just about to go into the pits. There he is, just about crossing the white line on exit there a little bit, which in Formula One would certainly get you a penalty. As I think poor Lewis Hamilton could probably attest to that. But there is Jan Grankvist, our runaway championship leader from those early rounds. But of course, he did return to the podium after a really bad round in Canada, where he finished 18th, failed to score any points, and qualified, I believe, outside the top 20 as well. It was uncharacteristically off the pace there And I believe it was just a race that Super Venturi didn't have a whole lot of time to practice for, whereas Spain, Grankvist was right back on the pace, finished third, of course. So he started to arrest that slide, although his gap isn't quite as big in the championship as it was earlier on. Still a good 40-point lead over Tom Stevens as Grankvist starting to get into the groove, setting a purple first sector, just a little bit off his personal best in the middle sector. But this could well be a lap that stretches him that little bit closer to Mark Schluter then. And for Jan Grankvist, ideally, even though he has that 40-point lead, he's going to be fighting for every win that's on the table. Of course, as there we go, just a little bit too aggressive over the curbs at the final corner. Round he goes, and any chance to steal pole position has gone for the time being.
That's what happens in these quality sessions. He's absolutely on the limit, and that last corner is so quick. If you just drop a wheel off the edge of that curb, you can very easily go around. And, well, we saw it in action right there, even from one of the best. And Dylan Fisher, wow, jumps up to P2. Only 300ths off pole. That is an unbelievable lap. I've only just spotted that one. That's fantastic. That's really good. Obviously jumps ahead of Jan Grankvist on that occasion. Stefan Ruhl as well, going pretty quick, but not the best middle sector, but still there or thereabouts to improve.
Yeah, heroic lap then from the AKA hero driver Dylan Fisher, who actually was very, very close to Schluter in the hot laps as well. He set a 104.1, but he has bested that here, 104.042. And oddly, I think the time screen's acting up a little bit here, because I believe... oh yeah, there we go. I'm starting to use it. It was showing 104.9 for Schluter, but that's of course much slower than the lap that Fisher has done. I think his actual time, as it shows on screen, is a 104.010, which would certainly be marginally ahead of Dylan Fisher. So that is just a race view starting to struggle. Mark Schluter so quick that it can't keep up, essentially, as we look at Pascal Polens, who goes just 3 thousandths of a second quicker on his personal best in the first sector there. So it seems the first sector course basically being formed of one corner and then the braking zone for the next corner just after it. It's a very short one even compared to the rest of the lap, and it's basically whoever's fastest through turn 1 tends to lead at the first sector, isn't it? Where it's 2 and 3, where the time is truly won and lost. So then Polens, 3 temps down in the middle sector, and then, completely loses the rear end through. That must be the very, very tricky Rindt corner, named after, of course, 1970 Formula 1 world champion Jochen Rindt, of course, a local driver born in Austria. That was a huge accident there, and that is exactly the sort of thing, I think it happened to Charles Leclerc in the real-life qualifying session as well, where the rear end just started to complain, and there was a big snap of oversteer, and he was just unfortunately a passenger Polens from that point onwards, as we see Schluter start yet another lap with 3 minutes left to go on the clock.
Yeah, Schluter still looking good at the top there, but all it takes is one lap and he could get knocked off that pedestal. I mean, Dylan Fisher still, I can't believe how close he is. That's really, really good lap from him. A few people I'm expecting to jump up still. Tom Stevens, an MP9. Expect a little bit more. Panzar as well, P12. We've seen him a little bit higher up, but typically, don't get me wrong, he's seems to be a bit better in the race than Folly, but I would have expected a little bit more from him. And where's Maguire as well? P14, Adam Maguire. So there's still time left on the table for plenty of drivers here, but obviously it ends up being a long race. It's not all just about qualifying in this occasion. Big straights will make for some decent overtaking opportunities as well. Jan Grankvist peels in the pits. He should be able to get one more lap out of this session.
Indeed he should, provided he doesn't delay too much. But here is Tom Stevens from the THR after winning the last round in Spain on 158 points. So they are about 13 points behind Super Venturi in the battle for the lead of the team's championship, which if anything is slightly closer than the Drivers' Championship battle, with Grankvist's huge lead at the moment. But there is Janos Braksok, the Hungarian, lighting up the first sector then. Let's see what his split 2 time is in the Adonis here as he barrels through turn 6 then. No sign of the rain returning so far, so final 90 seconds of the session. It should be dry all the way through. And Abraxok is 2 tenths down, but he's looking good to get into the top 15, which is where the points are scored in the race. So wide on his entry into the Jockenrink corner, isn't he? It almost looks like he's about to go to a different racetrack. But across the line comes Braxok. What can he do? It's a 104.3. That puts him 12 fastest on the grid, just ahead of his teammate Robin Panzer.
Yeah, not a bad effort. In and around the top 10 is somewhere to race from, definitely. It just seems like everyone is going purple in the sector 1 as well. Like, there's clearly time left on the table there, but not an awful lot. It's always by a few hundreds or a few thousands here and there. But we're not seeing any major movements, I don't think, inside the top 10 at least. Shout out Stephen Lexau, P10, that's a very good effort from him. Obviously Luke Mounier as well. P5, we know he can qualify well after last time out. Let's see what his fan Shingle can do. Gets it okay out of the last corner, maybe a little bit left on the table, jumps up to P19, so an improvement of 5 places for him on this occasion, and that'll be his qualifying session over. We're going to hopefully start to see the times tumble here. Everyone's putting in their final lap now.
Here comes the French driver, Geoffrey Fournier, but Epic Racing Team towards the line. He displaces Singal from that 19th play position with a 104.635. But Schluter is going even quicker then to try and extend that narrow margin he has over Dylan Fisher and Jan Grankvist then. So Schluter, who is really a man that has been really very, very consistent in this championship. Even though he didn't finish the first 2 races of the season, he's really fought back well for that. And AG Sports, who of course fielded Jake Dennehan to the title so memorably last season, really needed a leading light to step up and score some big points for them as Mark Schluter goes very, very wide at the final corner, just outside the track limits. Does not go faster anyway, so it's a moot point if the lap would have stood or not. There is Grankvist going very, very slowly, and that would seem to indicate that session is over as Rural completely spins it around, going into the Red Bull Mobile final corner there, and just about avoids the walls. A great car controller, Matthew Williams, similarly just about controlling the back end, but the time ebbing away then with just a little bit too much speed being carried through the final corner there for both drivers in those instances.
Yeah, everybody trying super hard there on the final lap, and that final sector can catch you out so easily. We saw many drivers going wide or off in that occasion, so doesn't seem like there's been any big shake-ups in the end, but great job by Mark Schluter in that pole position.
Yeah, you say no big shake-ups, but we've got 2 big stories. One is this man, Dylan Fisher, on the front row for the first time for AKA Hero. And that's great for the man who finished runner-up in the Superleague Championship last season. AKA Hero desperately need as a new team to prove themselves, and Dylan Fisher doing a great job there. But the other new team, the Virtual Drivers by TX3, Stephen Lexau, who of course is a reserve driver, has qualified in 5th position on the grid as well with his last effort there too. So I think those are the 2 standouts. And also shout out to Zolt Zux in the top 8 for the first time, the Hungarian. So that is a great news for him, of course, and the Stanks Racing team. So 3 really, really big underdog stories there. But let's take you through the final grid order then of qualifying, having finished just now. So Mark Schluter takes pole position for Edge Esports. I believe that's his 2nd pole position of the season. Dylan Fisher will line up alongside him, just 33 thousandths off pole position. And what a story it'd be if Dylan Fisher could fight for the win come the race's best result so far, of course, only 9th position. Jan Grankvist, the championship leader, lines up 3rd, just ahead of Stefan Ruot. So Ruot actually having a very, very quietly impressive session for TOP. Stephen Lexau, who I just mentioned, in 5th position for Virtual Drivers by TX3. Loic Moynier lines up 6th for the Epic Racing team. And it's Carlos Martin with a late lap that gets him up to 7th. Zolt Zux in a best ever top 8 for Stacks. Matthias Moos starts 9th for the Holland Racing team. And Heiko Poom rounds out the top 10 in the 2nd AKA Hero car. In 11th position, winner last time out, Tom Stevens, just outside the top 10. Just ahead of the 2 Adonis Engineering cars of Janos Braxok and Robin Pansar. Chris Shepard is going to start the race in 14th position. Thomas Vack will start in 15th, just ahead of Adam Maguire. Then it's Jukka Pegalalu, 17th. Pascal Polenz 18th, with Jeffrey Fournier 19th, and Istvan Singel rounding out the top 20. In 21st position, it's Daniel Stipkowski with Stein Hangraf just behind him for Green Stripes Racing. Then it is Luke Mitchell and Moritz Kropp in 23rd and 24th for Nocturne. Matthew Williams and Philip Pushke, last of those to set times for Zortax Racing. So Matthew Williams, that spin at the end really cost him dear. And then two drivers did not quite get to set lap times before the session ended, and that is George Salagianis for Pescara ADG and Jansen Bintz in his second start for Green Stripes Racing. So there we go, the whole grid separated by just a second then, which even knowing how short the lap is in Austria, that shows that we're in for a very, very competitive outing here. Not a whole lot to choose between the entire field. But for Mark Schluter, there's a great chance to close on the championship lead. For Dylan Fisher, there's a great chance to score a big, big upset for AKA Hero. After Dylan Fisher has had some pretty up and down rounds so far this season, but he has got some good points under his belt. This could be where he really arrives in Super League, and especially being behind his teammate Heigo Poom in the Drivers' Championship down in 17th position. This is a great chance to get even with his teammate and push them up the teams table with AKA here, I believe, are in 9th at the moment on 41 points, 2 behind Nocturne, of course, who start right near the back of the field. But anyway then, as warm-up continues, I guess we can fill for time, Ryan. Obviously, we had a little bit of rain in qualifying. If we get a wet start, that's going to lead to absolute chaos, particularly at the back of the field. And for those who didn't qualify so well, what can they do to stay out of trouble? Do you think a couple of people are going to just coast it into the first couple of corners from the very, very back of the grid? Or do you think that's going to be the prime opportunity to make up places and they're going to be taking a few more risks if they're down in, say, outside the top 20?
Well, you know what they say, you can't win a race on lap 1, but you can certainly lose it. I think this track opens itself up for a pretty leery lap 1 as well, which, yeah, to be fair, I mean, it's hard for me to say. I'm more on the send it side of driving, to be honest. If I was outside of the top 20, I'd probably go for it. That turn 3 is just so inviting for a big send, but equally you can just kind of sit back and let other people make either a mistake or even if it went as far as a crash, and it's easy pickings around here. Obviously they won't have the DRS to aid them in lap 1, but if they can stay in and around, they can definitely make something happen in the early laps. It's one of them tracks where I probably would take the risk of going for a bit of a lunge.
Yeah, there's one driver starting outside the top 20 that I would advise viewers to watch out for. It would definitely be Matthew Williams, of course, 8th in the championship, scored a 3rd place in the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka earlier this season, and he's usually a regular front runner. The last 2 races he was down in 13th though, so he's certainly looking to improve, and he's got quite the mountain to climb, not just the Styrian mountains here in Austria, but the mountain, of course, starting down in, I think, 24th or 25th, as it said at the end of qualifying there. But yeah, in terms of those starting at the front, we're going to see a lot of slipstreaming. We're going to see, like you say, there's that long run uphill into turn 3, essentially, which, like you say, very, very inviting into Remus, and it leads to a DRS zone, doesn't it? All the way down into turn 4, Schlossgold, which is another fantastic overtaking opportunity where you can sort of pick the inside or the outside, depending on how well the guy in front of you, or driver in front of you, I should say, defends. And you can see battles often carry on through into turn 6 and 7, Rauch and Verth, of course. Interestingly, at Barcelona, there was also a corner called Verth as well, which is somewhat confusing, of course. If you are Dylan Fisher, the championship contenders know, like Schluter and Grankfist, they know they can't afford to trip over Dylan Fisher. Does that give Dylan a little bit of confidence going into the race? in that he can afford to play a little bit more hardball with how he races compared to them, or do you think they're going to be so unwilling to give up any points at all to Dylan that it's not going to change things in the slightest?
Oh, Dylan's going to go for a win, 100%. I mean, he's got... It's not that he hasn't got anything to lose, but he's got a lot less to lose than the people around him. Does that mean the people around him are just going to let him drive off or go past him? No, it doesn't. So it depends how much Dylan wants it. I think this is as good a chance as ever for him to win a race or get on the podium or whatever his target is for this. We have seen it before where some people qualify quite high up and don't manage to make the race last. So I think his target in his head probably won't be directly going for a win right off the bat. It'll be staying in and around them positions, but we can certainly find out what his game plan is in circa 5 minutes time. Until then though, we are going to head for a quick break as I try to sort out some internet issues that I've been having during that qualifying session. So we'll catch you in about 4 minutes time.
Hello and welcome back to the Red Bull Ring in the Styrian Mountains of Austria here in Spielberg for round 8 of the GPVWC Superleague Championship in 2024. We just had a great qualifying session with a pole decided by a very narrow margin, 33 thousandths of a second, and it is Mark Schluter that will line up at the very front of the field then, ahead of what's set to be a very exciting 71 lap encounter at this 4.3 kilometer circuit. So alongside me as ever is Ryan Elliott in the commentary box, and of course our broadcast director Vincent Gutt, bring you all the camera angles and action as it unfolds. So Ryan, a slightly mixed up grid, but it's Schluter at the very front of it looking to take advantage then. In terms of the tyre strategies, what have people been saying in the background? What are we expecting going into this one? Will they go aggressive at the start and then use the harder tyres later on? Or are you expecting a 2 or 3 stop sort of strategy situation?
Ooh, it's a bit of a tricky one really, because I know that a lot of people have been commenting about the hard tyre not being so good across over a full race stint. I know that in Super Lights the people who did one stops were using I can't remember exactly what tyre they're on, but they were going soft, I believe, for the second stint. So I'm not too sure. Every time I say a strategy, it's completely wrong. What I would usually go for is the extra stop, and that seems to be the order of what's been faster this season as well. We've seen it on occasion where people have, if it's been a 2 or a 3, people have been going for the 3, and it's been working. I think orders will be 2 stop here is what I'm gonna say. Somebody feel free to correct me in the YouTube chat with a bit more knowledge of this car, but that's what I'm gonna go for. And I'm really interested to see how the top 5 kind of attack. Is it going to be all that attack from lap 1, or are we going to see some people trying to go long? You can usually tell even just from the first stint what the order of the race is going to be.
Exactly, and it'll be interesting to see if there's a train of cars, whether they opt in the first stint to sort of work together to sort of spread away from the rest of the pack, or whether it'll be just an all-out battle between all of them. And exactly how big that train's going to be is going to be very exciting. Of course, we all remember how controversial the Super Lights race ended earlier in the week, sadly, with not sadly for David Feideck, of course, won, but certainly for Jack Mayer, who led quite a lot of that race, unfortunately had it stolen away from him. But we have had our poll open up in the YouTube chat between who you think will win. Schluter, Fischer, Grankvist, and other are the options then. So I'm with other. Personally, but I think it could go any way. So anyway, as the grid leaves for the formation lap, let's go through who is going to line up where for the Austrian Grand Prix. So row 1, it's Mark Schluter and Dylan Fischer in first and second, with Jan Grankvist and Stefan Rutt alongside them. Then Stephen Lexo and Loic Monnier on row 3. Row 4, Carlos Martin, and for the first time this season, Zolt Zux in 8th. Row 5, Matthias Moos, just ahead of Heiko Poom. Then on row 6, it's Tom Stevens, ahead of Janos Braxok. On row 7, it's of course Robin Pansar, just ahead of the second edge of Chris Shepherd. Thomas Vack lines up 15th, just ahead of Adam Maguire in 16th. On row 9, it's Jukka Pegalalu, just ahead of Epic Racing's Jeffrey Fournier. Then on row 10, it's Istvan Singel, just ahead of Daniel Skipkowski. Row 11, Stein Handgraf, just pipping Luke Mitchell. On row 12, it's Pascal Polenz, joined by Moritz Kropp. In 25th, it's the 2 Zortax racing cars of Matthew Williams and Philip Pushke just behind in 26th. Then it's George Salagianis 27th with Jansen Bintz 28th, and last on the grid. Certainly lots of work for Salagianis and Bintz, who I don't think got any laps in during qualifying, so they're coming in cold, and they've got an awful lot of work to do. But just a reminder of the rules, of course, the top 15 have to start, I believe, on the soft tyres that they pretty much the same compound that they qualified on. But everyone down from Adam Maguire onwards has free choice of tyres, and that's where you're going to start to see your medium tyre come into the mix.
Yeah, I'm going to go and assume that Hygo Poom there is just the graphic taking a little bit of time to update. Should be starting on the softs, I believe.
Like
and this is going to be a good one.
Yep, here we go then. So, as Vincent Zalagianis just slot in at the back of the grid now, we wait for the lights that will signal the start of things in Austria. It may be election day in the UK, but here in the Styrian Mountains, there's no such thing as an assured majority or a safe seat. It's every driver for themselves then. The lights coming on one by one. When all 5 go out, the action will unleash here, and unleash it does. Away we go here at the Red Bull Ring, and Schluter gets a very, very clean getaway. Dylan Fisher tries to hold the middle of the road to keep Jan Grankvist at bay, and he's been successful in doing so. But with that defensive action's really played into the hands of Mark Schluter then as they go on the long run up to turn 3. And here comes Grankvist round the outside of the AKA Hero car. Fisher breaks late to try and defend, tries to feed Grankvist into the path of Stefan Rult. And there we go, Dylan Fisher has been able to hold on to second position. We see a yellow in Sector 2, and it looks like Adam Maguire has hit trouble right at the start of the race as Grankvist continues to attack into turn 4, and again unable to find a way around the outside of Dylan Fisher. So Grankvist will know all the while he's fighting with Fisher, Schluter is making hay up front run.
It seems like it's been a bit of a chaotic start looking backwards in the group. We've already had one DNF, Matthias Muss, who dropped down from, what, I believe P7, P8 qualifying on the grid. So not a great start to the day. Also Stepkowski and Adam Maguire out on the first lap. But Jan Grankvist on the attack right away, but Dylan Fisher doing a fantastic job to keep him held at bay. But all that's done is let Schluter get a little bit of breathing room. When the DRS comes active, he will be within range if it stays as is, but 6 to 7 tenths is already a pretty big lead after one lap.
Oh, as we see a little bit of side-by-side, that's Chris Shepherd under attack from Robin Pansar, who snatches the inside at turn 3 there. Beautiful move from the Adonis driver, the Super Swede, making up a place to 9th position. But if you just saw on the run into turn 1 there, Carlos Martin was under attack from Monia. He seemed to do a little bit of a wiggle of dissatisfaction, I would wager, to try and hold Luke Monia at bay. As we see Moritz Kropp in the pits along with Braxock, sadly. So they've both hit early trouble then.
Yeah, I wonder what's happened. We could hopefully get a replay when the race settles down, but it seems to have been a bit of an incident at 2 parts of the grid so far. There's been some big jumpers up. Thomas Vax made up 4 places from his starting position. You'll be happy with that. As you see now riding on board like Monier, who's just settling in. Also, has got a little bit of a gap to Stephen Lexow behind already, which will be good for him. You'll be aiming to break the DRS within the next lap or so. As DRS is activated on this lap, we see now the trains will start to form, the packs will form with individuals who manage to break away from the packs in front or behind. You see Luke Mischel putting on the pressure in P20. It's not been a great start to the day for Nocturne, but still definitely a chance of points for those guys. As see Dylan Fisher now. He's actually closing up on Schluter a little bit, taking a couple of tenths out of him. I'm sure the DRS will have definitely helped on this lap.
Yeah, somebody who's not made a great start is Zoltzuks, who started 8th on the grid, has dropped down to 21st. And he's just repassed Philip Pushke, of course. Looks like George Salagianis is visiting the pits as well. Somebody who has also made, like Thomas Bach, a very, very strong start is Matthew Williams, who has gained almost 10 places, I think, from where he started. He's up to 17th, and he's 8 tenths now behind Stein Hangraf, both battling Jeffrey Fournier for the final points paying position. But here is Dylan Fisher then. He started to close back up, actually. A tenth quicker than Mark Schluter the previous lap around, although Jan Grankvist seems to be going quicker than the pair of them just behind. In the poll, just before the race started, 41% voted for Fisher to win the Austrian Grand Prix. 41% also voted other, 16% voted Grankvist, and nobody voted for Mark Schluter, then the pole sitter, which seems like a astonishing lack of confidence for someone who's done so well in recent history. But Mark Schluter, I'm sure, will be very keen to prove them wrong then, as we see looks like Handgraf has actually gotten himself up to 15th position and the final point as we look at Chukapega Lalu there. There we go, he's fighting away with Istvan Single then. So Single, who had stayed out of trouble at the start, had gotten himself just into the points, finds himself being shuffled back down the pack.
Yeah, but there's still plenty of time to go for him. Obviously not the greatest start for the other Stax car. Couldn't get any worse really, unfortunately for him. But we see the packs are not starting to form yet. There's still a bit of a train going on, especially for the lead here. But I think Granquist is going to play smart. I think he needs to now, since he didn't get that place on the first lap, he needs to think about the long run. Kind of save his tyres, sit in behind, use up that DRS and just let the time come to him through the DRS instead of overly pushing his tyres. But all round, great start for the AKA Hero cars. Dylan Fisher and Hygo Poom both having a good start to this race. Poom making up a couple of positions actually. We see Matthew Williams on the tack again against Istvan Stingel, goes around the outside. Does he get the move done? Yes, he does. And is he on the harder tyres as well, Matthew Williams? Or are they? No, both on the mediums on this occasion. And Istvan Stingel goes off. What a shame.
Yeah, just the slightest of touches from Matthew Williams. Had a wheel alongside going into turn 6, and that just sent the stacks of Istvan Singel as a sort of passenger from that point onwards into the gravel and into the wall at high speed. So that signals the end of Istvan Singel's race, and what a difficult first season it's been for him in Super League. He's only finished 2 races as Istvan Singel, no points to his name so far, and that's a big shame for him because there was a good chance potentially to recover even if he had to let Matt Williams through there. But yeah, Williams could well find himself in a little bit of trouble for that one later on.
What does Stax have to do to get some luck? It's honestly unbelievable. Like, no matter what they do, they seem to be having a good run, and just something happens. I honestly feel so bad for their drivers. And we see a replay here. So this is on Tom Stevens. Who does he clip? Yes, he clips one of the Stax cars.
Oh, and there's somebody losing a wheel in the background as well.
Messy.
That might be Stepkowski losing the rear wheel.
Yeah, there was a wheel, there was a wing, there was all sorts flying off there. That was really not a great stand. This is the other THR car that gets in a little bit of trouble. Oh yeah, and then so yeah, it was Maguire's wheel and Stepkowski, sorry. So there's 2 wheels that went off on that occasion. This is what happens with that. 3 wheels. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So it looked to me like Adam Maguire braked really late into turn 3, got very early on the power, and then just clipped Moose. So that really shows you with the damage model being extra sensitive this season. You've got to be very careful, especially on the first lap when everyone is so bunched up together like that. Those are the sorts of things that can happen, aren't they, right? And so
especially that corner. Yeah, especially that corner as well. We said before the race, if it goes one way or the other, and it went the other. You know, there was a massive file up there. A lot of cars out after just 3 turns.
Certainly. So we see about 6 cars then that have retired from the race then. We've only 7 laps completed though, or we're about to start lap 8 then. And the gap between Schluter and Fischer is 0.7 of a second then, with Jan Grankvist just tailing. And in fact, Stefan Ruhl is still within about half a second of Grankvist as well. So really it's the how far does this train go back? I think it goes all the way back to Chris Shepherd in 10th then, with him being just 1.4 seconds ahead of Tom Stevens. And Stevens has, to be honest, given the chaos that was happening there, does not incur further damage after spinning around Zux. He's done fairly well to sort of minimize the impact of that, hasn't he? As we see, I think Matthew Williams and Dalt Zux are starting to fight each other for 17th position then, with Luke Mitchell getting involved as well. Yeah, and Grankvist, like you say, is really just biding his time. We were talking just before the race started, weren't we, Ryan, about the top speeds of all these cars. That Schluter, Fischer had very similar top speeds, but Jan Grankvist had really high top speed in the qualifying and practice sessions. So that seemed to indicate to us that he was set up to try and pass people during the race, essentially.
Yeah, he certainly certainly set the car up to be a race car more than a quali car. As we see him, like you said, just biding his time, and you know, all he has to do is, if he's got that major top speed advantage, he can just lift off a little bit at the end of the straight. Save them tyres as well while he's got the DRS. It'd be a massive overspeed when he wants it. He's got that top speed on tap, ready to turn on whenever he wants. But he's not really facing any pressure from Stefan Ruart at the moment. Obviously Ruart won't be getting much pressure from his teammate Carlos Martin as well in 5th place. So I think this entire pack doesn't want to race at the moment. If they're thinking, you know, smartly, I wouldn't want to be overtaking anybody if I was in that top 5 at the moment.
And of course, the problem is with the DRS terrain you've got here is that essentially that top speed for Grankvist would come in really, really handy if he had one car ahead of him that didn't have DRS. But unfortunately, Dylan Fisher ahead of him is getting DRS from the back of Schluter, of course. So it kind of creates this stalemate situation at the moment where nobody has a distinct advantage over one another in that sort of top 12 at the moment, with all of them being on the soft tires. Highest runner on the alternate strategy, starting on the mediums, is, I believe, Jukabega Lalu in 13th, and looks like Hangraf and Pollens in 15th and 16th, also on well.
Yeah, the alternate strategy obviously not coming into play yet, but somebody like Jukabega sitting in P13 is, you know, it might not seem too impressive now, but that's a good sign of a good result right there. If he can especially keep on with this pack like he's doing at the moment, only currently 8 seconds off the lead. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he'll be fighting for the lead exactly, but he'll be certainly well into that top 10, I'd imagine, when the strategies all shake out.
Yeah, he's only lapping about 0.4, half a second slower than the leaders on the harder compounded tyre, and he's within 8.5 seconds of the lead itself. So if somebody decides to pull the trigger early, they're definitely going to come out behind Lalu, and certainly one Super Venturi is certainly going to help its sister car that is leading, of course, that Drivers' Championship in any way that it can, as long as it's within the rules, of course, which I'm sure he will stick to, as he's usually done. But look at this, Fisher, is it me? Has he just started to up his pace that little bit? 108.9 compared to 109.0 for Schluter, so I'm not sure. It looks like first sector, especially with the DRS, is where he's really gaining the time. So that really shows you the job that Schluter's having to do in the middle and final sector to claw that time back to be only a tenth slower.
Yeah, and potentially using up them tyres as well, like we've said all along. We'll see, will there be a lap, 2 lap difference in the pit strategies for these guys? I'm not sure, but Fisher could also, it might not seem like it, I know we've been saying he's sitting in, but could also be trying his hardest to stay up with Schluter. That DRS does help in the first sector massively, but like through these corners here, he's effectively sitting in dirty air, and he's clearly having to push quite hard to stay within that 1 second range. But that first sector just keeps him well into it, doesn't it?
Indeed it does, and he'll just be hoping to keep getting that advantage of that first DRS zone on that long run uphill towards turn 3. And I think the big threat here is that if he drops too far behind and out of DRS range of Schluter, then he's going to be easy prey for Grankvist with that straight line top speed that he's got, sort of high end. So that really puts the extra little bit of pressure on Dylan Fisher. And look at this, he's going for the lead. Here we go, to the outside at turn 4. How hard will Mark Schluter defend this? Answer, pretty hard indeed, as Fisher just fishtails the rear end there as he tries to get on the power quite early. So Schluter's starting to feel a little bit of pressure here as he's being eaten up by the DRS range. It looks like he's having to put more effort into these tyres than he really wants to at this phase of the race run.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that was the corner he decided to attempt to do an overtake. Not for the fact that it's not possible to do an overtake in that corner. We've seen it plenty of times, especially because he got the DRS. But the overlap didn't look huge. I thought he was going to go to the outside, but then, you know, settle back in behind in the middle of the corner. But no, he really went for it. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a lap that Grankvist actually went for the move on him. Let's see what happens here up into turn 3. Has a little look to the inside, but doesn't commit to anything too high. Doesn't want to lunge and ruin both of their races and ruin his own run if the move doesn't come off, because Granquist would be right there with the DRS behind him into this corner.
Yeah, and I've got bad news for AKA Hero, because it looks like Hygo Poom has spun out of the final sector, out of 8th position, and now he's trying to keep Tom Stevens behind him for 11th position here. Stevens has got Lalu as well on the harder compound, right nipping at his heels, with Handgraf as well also starting to get involved in this pack as well. So big fight just outside the top 10 that Hygo Poom has unwittingly dropped himself into, as we see Jeffrey Fournier just slicing his way up the inside of Stein Handgraf at Verf corner there. Decisive move from the Frenchman.
And whatever happened there has actually benefited Thomas Bach the most. If you see somebody peel into the pits there, who was that?
It wasn't Stevens,
that was Tom Stevens. Yes, it was. Tom seems a little bit early to me.
As Handgraf tries to get a nose alongside into turn 1, but that's always such a tricky move when you don't quite have enough overlap there, because it tightens up so much at the apex with the sort of pit barrier on the outside, inside of the corner there. As we see Fischer once again just showing his intentions, getting to the outside in the racing line to try and make a move, and Schluter again having to defend it. So the more Schluter defends, the worse this will get for him, as Handgraf has another go at battling away with Fournier. What a fantastic fight this is for 13th position here between Handgraf and Fournier, and Handgraf now trying to go around the outside into turn 6.
Yes, that's the point I was trying to make before we saw Stevens pull in, was that Vach had managed to get past Stevens and Poom. So I'm wondering if Poom's spin might have caused some sort of problem for Tom Stevens, because he did obviously pit that lap as well, which did seem just a little bit earlier than I was expecting. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Stevens had a huge lockup trying to avoid the spin or something like that. But yeah, Vach managed to jump to the front of that pack, but there were a good 4 seconds off the back of the top 9 in this train that we're watching here. And I'm very surprised that nobody's trying to make a real lunge here or there. It's not quite happened yet in this group, which is smart in my opinion, but not often do you have a group of drivers like this that are happy to kind of settle into a little bit of a rhythm. As we see Jukka-Pekka Lalu thinking about the inside there, doesn't do it on this occasion. As we see a replay here, is this going to be Hygo Poom? Yes, it is, coming through the final sector. Second to last is okay. Final corner, what happens? Yes, just loops it and nothing. So this is where Vach comes into it. So Vach was already ahead of Stevens, it looks like, in this replay. So that must have been something separate that had happened then.
Yeah, could just be a legitimate early pit stop from Tom Stevens. We see Grankvist pit from third of Panzer, also pitting from inside the top 10 too. Now Vach also makes his stop too. So this really releases Dylan Fischer. Big gap behind him now to Stefan Rualt.
Yeah, but what's going to happen here? You know, Grankvist was really close to these guys. He's going to have the undercut. They're going to have to pit this lap and react straight away. Otherwise, they'll get jumped. They'll definitely get jumped. As long as Grankvist gets a clean bit of track when he comes out of the pits, which it looks like he just about has. Got circa second and a half to the car in front of him, which he should be able to, well, stay with a decent gap to Luke Mitchell. Shouldn't get in the way on this occasion.
And it's the hard tyres on Grankvist's car as well, by the looks of things. As look at that, they're all about to funnel in. And in fact, Schluter actually stays out. It's Fischer that responds to Grankvist's pit stop. And it looks like Martin, Moynier, and a couple of others as well, all steaming into the pit lane then. Lexa is in tow as well. So this is crucial phase of the race then. They need to make sure that they get out roughly ahead of, let's see, just behind where Jan Grankvist is. So that's sort of Grankvist pushkay sort of territory, isn't it, where they're all going to filter out. And there is Dylan Fischer, and there's Grankvist just catching up to the back of Luke Mitchell there. So he has jumped Dylan Fischer.
Yeah, as predicted. I just could see it happening. Like, Fischer was screwed as soon as Granqvist went in because he was blocked as Granqvist gets pushed wide there a little bit. Max Verstappen-esque from Luke Mitchell there. But yeah, Pushka.
Is it? No, it's Matthew Williams, sorry.
No, yeah.
He's making a double move here. He's attacking Luke Mitchell up the inside at turn 4. And Matthew Williams gets up to 7th position there. And now Jan Granqvist has to get around the outside of Luke Mitchell, but is unable to do so. And this is really backfiring, playing into the hands of Schluter, who now comes into the pits. And Dylan Fischer now, who closes inexorably on the back of the Super Ventura.
All of that time that he'd managed to build in the undercut is gone in half a lap. That's all it takes is a bit of traffic at the wrong point, and this is what happens. Dylan Fischer right on the back of them. And let's see where Schluter comes out in all of this.
Here we go. So Granqvist up the inside, and there is Mark Schluter. It looks like they both have been able to get their way through, but here comes Dylan Fischer side by side with Mark Schluter, and he's just about been able to prevail. And Martin, is that Martin or one of the TOP's rules, getting involved in this, and it's all getting very, very close into turn 3 there. So Schluter, by staying out the extra lap, has just lost the lead there. So it was a gamble from Edge Esports, but now they've got the fresher tyres as long as they can just hold on to track position here. And look at this, around the outside comes, that must be Martin, sorry, it was Martin. I thought it was Rural, but I think the two have swapped positions. Then as Matt Williams just holds off Dylan Fischer crucially, and that is really going to help Jan Granqvist.
Granqvist lost the gap and is now gaining it again as Fischer gets stuck behind Williams. I'm surprised Williams put up such a fight when you can see the leaders right there, but you know he's entitled to do it. And Granqvist just running away now. That's going to ruin that battle that we thought we were going to have. It just, that's a real shame for Fischer. But he might have to use up a little bit of extra push to pass to try and get this gap to Granqvist down now. So that undercut has really worked. We thought it was taken away from him, but it's coming back to him now as the gap between them is about 2 seconds, and it's all getting a little bit tight in turn 3. Carlos Martin thinking about it on Mark Schluter. Let's see what happens here into turn 4. Oh my goodness, they're going to go 3 wide, aren't they?
Yeah, here we go. Up the inside, defends Dylan Fischer from Mark Schluter. So the shoe is very much on the other foot at this moment in time, and Carlos Martin looking to punish these two for squabbling against one another. Meanwhile, Jan Granqvist is 1.5 seconds up the road in his Super Ventura and in the net lead of the race. It's another 4.8 seconds to Jeffrey Fournier, who is the last of the soft tyre runners yet to pit. Then it's the 3 medium runners of Lalu, Hangraf and Polenz that are running long, and in comes Fournier. So that's going to promote Granqvist up to 4th. Everyone else right behind him in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, etc. But yeah, very, very aggressive on this stint out of the pits there. I'm amazed that Schluter found just enough of a gap right behind Dylan Fischer to slot into. But yeah, Fischer has got a really tough problem here as we see Williams continuing to be under attack, this time from Lexo and Robin Pansar, as Stephen Lexo just tangles wheels with Matt Williams into turn 3 there, and that creates an opportunity for Robin Pansar and the Adonis now to go side by side as they approach into turn 4. Gets a little bit of slip off of Stephen Lexo, so Pansar loses his front wing, and it looks like Matthew Williams has lost a load of time in there as well. So a huge misjudgment for Robin Pansar with big consequences for that team, because Braxock is out and it looks like Robin Pansar is going to the pits for a new front wing.
Ah man, these battles are intense, but yeah, not going the way of Pansar on that occasion, or Williams for that matter. That got a little bit messy. And you could just see when the cars went 3 wide, you knew something was going to go wrong. Chris Shepherd though now attempting to get past Williams. We see Fischer going fastest lap of the race as well. That gap is slowly coming down to Granqvist, but he's got a lot of work to do, and he's got to hope that Schluter and Martin sit in with him and don't put the pressure on too hard. As we see Chris Shepherd going to the outside at turn 3. Does he get it done on the brakes? Oh, it's going to be tight. Goes round the outside, gets that move, and comes off for him. What a move that was from Chris Shepherd. I thought he was just going to lose it a little bit in the middle of the corner with a bit too much overspeed with the DRS this time for Tom Stevens. Fights right back up the inside at turn 4.
Fantastic opportunities from Tom Stevens there. You saw he just slotted up the inside there of Williams through turn 3, following Shepherd through, and then he used the DRS to pick Shepherd off into turn 4 there. So that puts Tom Stevens up to 12th on the road. But once the 3 leaders pit, that's going to be 9th position for Tom Stevens. So he's starting to recover ground in this race then. Still quite a way to go. 50 laps remaining then, and Lalu currently leads on the road, but it is of course Jan Grankvist who now only leads by 0.8 of a second. Dylan Fisher working his way back into DRS range as Grankvist is stuck behind Pascal Polenz in 3rd.
Let's see what happens to Volt here. Oh my goodness.
It's really the danger of that massive yellow curb at turn 1, isn't it? You can sort of beat yourself on it, get on the power, and then suddenly you're a passenger. Indeed, a very fiery passenger in the case of Zolt Zux. Then the battles continue. Here is Handgraf, who's just been overtaken then crucially by Jan Grankvist, who has been caught by Dylan Fisher. You can just see Fisher and Schluter in the background there, with Fisher lighting up the timing screws. He cannot afford to be held up by Polenz and Handgraf. If Dylan Fisher is very, very lucky here, one or both of them are going to head into the pit lane fairly soon, but he can't afford to wait that long, and indeed he knows it. Up the inside into the Jochen Rindt curve, he easily dispatches Pascal Polenz, who now Mark Schlegel, just about had to go off track to avoid him there, as Polenz is starting to run out of those medium tyres. Next target, Handgraf, but Jan Grankvist is already starting to pull clear then, so crucial that Fisher clears him into turn 3 here.
Yeah, and he'll have the DRS here, whereas Handgraf does not. So he should get this move done fairly easily, is what I say. Let's see if it does. Yeah. I think Handgraf did let him go on that occasion, and hopefully Schluter as well with the DRS here. But saying that Handgraf does also have it, will he get the move done on the inside? Yes, he does. Handgraf not putting up as much of a fight as, say, Williams did with this leading pack, and Martin manages to what's the word I'm looking for? Capitalise, sorry, on that opportunity. Yeah, that's the one. But it's been a great race. I mean, we got just under 50 laps as well. I hope that it continues at this kind of rate for the next 40 odd laps. It's been unbelievable so far. Super League, the best there is in sim racing.
Yeah, absolutely top drivers, not leaving anything on the table as Lalu pits, and that makes sense. No reason to hold up Grankvist then in this stint, although Super Venturi, if they wanted to, they could have used him to hold up Dylan Fisher, but with that little interruption from Handgraf, Grankvist has built the gap back up to 1.5 seconds once more. So it's really worked out well. In the case of Handgraf, given the amount of retirements we've seen so far in this race, only 19 cars still running, it makes absolutely sense from the point of view of Green Stripes to not fight these drivers too hard, because their battle really is for those last couple of points paying positions with the likes of Matt Williams, Philip Pushke and Jeffrey Fournier, isn't it? It's not with these two here, with Fisher now under attack from Schluter, who tries to go around the outside at turn 4 and 5, and just gets cut across by the AKA hero of Dylan Fisher there. So the British driver leaving no room whatsoever for Schluter to take advantage of. And all the while these two fight, it plays into the hands of Carlos Martin and Loic Moynier, who stopped fighting with each other, have started to work together and want to profit by getting onto the podium.
In the last stint, I was applauding these guys for not battling. In this stint, they've thrown what I said out the window and they're already battling amongst themselves. The gap is still an achievable distance to claw back on Jan Grankvist. They should not be fighting together. If they're going to fight, it should be when he's 3, 4, 5 seconds down the road. There's still it's an achievable gap to close for Fisher, and I think he can do it. He's doing a fantastic job of managing the race so far, I think, at least. Obviously, it didn't work in his favour with the back markers, but they're still within fighting range, so let's see if Schluter decides to settle in for the next couple of laps now.
Well, he certainly was a little bit further back into turn 4 on this occasion. So he was 2 tenths quicker in the first sector, of course, but Fisher a tenth slower than Grankvist through Sector 1 and then matching him through Sector 2 on this lap. Previous lap, with that defensive job that Dylan Fisher had to do, he was 3/10 slower than Jan Grankvist. So yeah, 1.8 seconds the current gap. Let's see as they cross the line what it is now. But this group could well end up fighting themselves for second, as you say, if they're not careful. And Grankvist has gained another 2/10, the gap back up to 2 seconds here.
Schleusser does have 1 lap fresher tyres as well, so you'll be thinking about that, but I don't think it'll be making...
And look at Ruel attacking Moynier just as Mark Schluter dives up the inside at turn 3, up the inside of Dylan Fisher there. Fisher could be a little bit delayed, needs to make sure Carlos Martin doesn't get involved, and Fisher, of course, will not have DRS because of how late Mark Schluter dived up the inside of him there. As look at this, Moynier trying to get back alongside Stefan Ruel there as they duel over 5th position. Moynier will have to come in from the outside here. It's going to need a brave move for the Epic Racing driver to hold on to 5th place here, but Ruel's got the inside into Verf. There we go, full commitment from the Frenchman, and Loic Moynier still alongside then as they travel towards Jochenrind corner.
It needed a brave move and he delivered. It didn't quite pay off in the end, but wow, what a almost move that was from Moynier. And I'm surprised he even went for it, to be honest. Like I said, he's got plenty of time in this race to get those positions back, and they're all just getting... Was it? Sorry, I thought it would been overtaken already. Yeah. But yeah, they're all scrapping pretty hard, and that gap to Grankvist hasn't really gone up or down. It's kind of floating within a tenth, I think. On the previous lap, Schluter was faster, even though he'd made the overtake as well, which is pretty impressive. So let's see what Schluter can do now, leading this group.
Indeed, yes. So Mark Schluter, while we were looking away, has snatched that second position. But this has worked out well for TOP in 4th and 5th. Now Martin and Ruel could well end up working together to maximise their finishing position at least. So Martin now can afford to attack Dylan Fisher without worrying too much about Ruel behind him. It'll be interesting to see how TOP decide to play this one with Martin clearly their best hope in the Drivers' Championship as well. Let's remind ourselves, in 4th position, of course, after that victory at Montreal a couple of races ago. So still looking to double up here, but at the moment you have to say things are going the way of Grankvist, but Schluter has gained 2/10 back on him on the previous lap. Now he has cleared Dylan Fisher. Fisher still currently holding on to what would be his first podium and his best result in Super League, but holding off TOP for the rest of this race, that's going to be a mighty job that Fisher's got on his hands. And the DRS from the back of Schluter is certainly going to save him for the time being. But how much longer is that going to be the case, Ryan?
I really hope his race engineer's in his ear just telling him, you know, it's a long race, we've still got a long way to go. Just don't overdrive. It's very easy at this phase of the race to push a little bit too hard to keep up with a pack that maybe is just a little bit out of reach at this point in the race, but needs to let it come to him a little bit later on. And him and Schluter, well, especially Fisher, because he'd pitted a lap earlier, they've probably used up a couple more percent on the tyres than they wanted to. So he really needs to just try and stay in this DRS train now. If he drops out of that DRS zone, it's going to become a lot harder, and it may turn into a two-horse race between Schluter and Grankvist. That gap, Grankvist managing it really well. You know, it goes up and down, but it's kind of hovering at the same circa 2 second mark. It's not making too much of a dent, so very impressive race management for Grankvist so far.
And I think Fisher has just dropped out of DRS range because he was 9/10 behind as they crossed the start-finish line, and I didn't see the DRS open down that straight going into turn 4. So Dylan Fisher looking a little bit more exposed to Carlos Martin. We know how experienced he is, and we've heard him in the commentary box too for Super Lights, haven't we? Doing an impressive job on both sides of the microphone, so to speak, or both sides of the steering wheel, I think we should say, from his perspective. But yeah, Martin, he's really played a bit of a slow burn of a race, hasn't he? And tried to sort of take advantage as and when he can to sort of clear Moynier and now start to attack for those podium places. So Dylan Fisher has really got to show what he's made of now to either get back into the DRS zone or play a very, very cautious defensive game to make sure there's no opportunities for Martin to take advantage of, because so those straights are going to be a little bit of a slipstream battle now between the pair, with Martin looking viciously quick here. And here he comes. He's got the inside then into turn 4, and he's going to be ahead before they get to the apex then. There we go. Fisher shuffled down to 4th, and Martin is on the podium here in Austria.
Carlos Martin doing the business. He's slowly but surely plucking away at this race, and it's starting to come to him. Let's see if the other TOP Esports car of Stefan Ruot can also capitalise on it. Dylan Fisher, that seems to be slowly just dropping down out of this pack. But like we said, it's a long race, and they've got a huge gap to P7, which is Tom Stevens, a good 10 seconds off the back of Loic Meunier. So, you know, he can afford at the moment to drop a couple of places. There's still plenty of time for that to come back to him, but Carlos Martin doing a fantastic job. I remember at the start of the season he was labelling himself as number 2 driver. Obviously now McGorgy stepped out of that seat, he's really stepped up to the plate, leading that team.
Yeah, speaking of McGorgy, he has written not too long ago in the chat, Super League drivers try to be smart challenge, brackets, impossible. So he's showing what he thinks of his former and current rivals, it must be said. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the plan is for McGorgy to go back into that seat at some point once his title challenge in another championship ends. But look at this, Stefan Ruot, the man currently in that seat, doing a very strong job at the moment to put pressure on Dylan Fisher for that 4th position. But unfortunately for him, starting to just about fall into the clutches of Loic Meunier once more, who was a 10th quicker the previous lap, but Ruot himself 5/10ths quicker than Dylan Fisher on the previous tour of the circuit. Meanwhile, Mark Schluter has consistently been gaining on Grankvist. The gap 1 second now as he gains another 3 attempts on him. So Mark Schluter using that pace that he used to get pole position to good effect here. And it's slowly turning into potentially a 2-horse race unless Carlos Martin can stealth his way in. And it must be said, Tom Stevens has been matching some of the pace of the podium runners at the moment as well, down in 7th. So despite being 9 seconds off the pace, there's every chance that Tom Stevens could maybe get a top 6 or top 5 out of this if those ahead slip up.
Oh yeah, Schluter's doing some great lap times right now, and Granquist will be, I think he'll be looking in his mirrors, and in that Edge Esports car will be getting bigger and bigger. But Martin, all he has to do is do exactly what he's doing right now. Not push too hard, wait for Schluter to catch Granquist, them two battle for 2 corners, and he's in the mix again. Same for Fisher, same for Ross, same for Meunier. They're all so close together that all it takes is them two to battle up front, and they'll all be back in a 6-car train. This has been a great race so far. We're almost getting to the halfway point, and it's been certainly one of my favourite races of the season so far. Stefan just runs a little bit wide out of turn 1. What can he do with the DRS up the straight? Obviously Fisher with the DRS as well on this occasion. Yeah, nothing quite just yet, but really closes up to the middle part of the apex there.
Yeah, you could just tell the run out of turn 3 that Fisher is just starting to struggle a little bit on traction, and that's creating these little opportunities for the likes of Martin and Ruot. But as you say, Martin has actually been matching Grankvist's lap time, so the gap 2.6 seconds to the lead. So as you say, if they start battling each other, if Grankvist has to get defensive and slow both himself and Schluter down, then Martin is absolutely going to profit, and him getting to the front of that podium battle for 3rd essentially is going to become an absolutely pivotal point in this race then, that puts him into play for this 1st place battle. Yeah, Grankvist versus Schluter. We saw this before in this season, didn't we, at Imola, with that battle pretty much the whole race, but it ended on the final lap with Grankvist attempting a move, running over the gravel, and Schluter just about narrowly holding on to his 1st victory. And now it's a reverse scenario, isn't it, where he's got to find a way through if he wants to take a victory number 2 and really bring this title fight to Jan Grankvist.
And I think within the next lap we could see this battle well and truly commence. Great effort from Schluter, by the way. I was, criticising him for attacking Fischer, but clearly he knew he had that extra pace in the locker, and he's well and truly found it, and has made that 2-second gap come down to just 0.4 now. He'll be within striking distance in this next lap with the DRS, I'm sure of it. But Carlos Martin as well, like you said, he's putting in impressive lap times. I think he's even slightly caught up a couple of tenths to these lead two, and they've not even started to battle yet. So Martin could also be a contender for this race lead.
Yeah, but still just over half the race then to go on lap 35 of 71 then. And Grankvist then matches Schluter the previous lap, both in the 108.8s then, but Carlos Martin in the 108.7s. So he is chewing through temp by temp as Stefan Ruhl gets through into 4th position then, past Dylan Fischer. So unfortunately for Fischer, he's now going to be fighting for 5th position against Loic Meunier. And in terms of this Schluter-Grankvist battle, remember, Mark Schluter pit 2 laps later than Jan Grankvist. Says, look at this, round the outside comes Loic Meunier, and just has to get the throttle on the exit of turn 4, up through 5 and into 6. Fischer is going to be stranded on the outside then in the AKA Hero car. Unfortunately, down to 6th he goes, and he's just got to hope he can hold on to the back of this pack now and minimize the damage. It looks like the tires just not able to hold on that AKA Hero car.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where it's all gone wrong for Dylan. Maybe just pushed a little bit too hard when battling with that little bit of traffic at the start of the stint, and it's really hurting him as the stint's going on, and still got a little way to go on these tyres as well. So the best thing he can do is just really try as hard as he can to keep a hold of DRS of the Epic Racing car ahead of him. Got no pressure from behind though, which is good for him. But speaking of pressure from behind, Jan Grankvist will be feeling it. 2 tenths now is the gap. Is Schluter going to go for the inside? Yes, he is.
Here we go then.
And he completes the move.
Gets through then, as you say, Ryan, into turn 4 there. And Grankvist was, he didn't almost even try to defend that one from the outside, did he? He left plenty of room for Mark Schluter. And it's almost like he knew that there was just going to be a big threat from behind. He didn't want to fight too hard as Lalu slots up the inside then and repasses Hygo Poom for 9th position then. Remember, these two have made their pit stops at various points in the race. Lalu yet to get off of the harder compounded tyre. Hygo Poom, of course, pitting much earlier than him for his set of hard tyres off of the soft compound. So Hygo Poom theoretically could go to the end, but his tyres would be in a awful state, whereas Lalu definitely has to make another stop because he's only used 1 compounded tyre so far in this race. Look at this, here's Jeffrey Fournier himself caught back up to the back of Thomas Vac, and it looks like the TOPs are swapping positions. Ruhl now goes through to 3rd past Carlos Martin then, so strategic move from TOP Esports there, put Ruhl, the 2021 Super League champion, ahead of Carlos Martin.
Yeah, we're seeing positions swapping and changing everywhere right now.
Is that responding to Meunier behind them as well?
Could be, yeah, and they've put a gap on Fischer, so now Meunier's got a bit of free track to push as hard as he can without having the pressure behind him. But there's a great pack here as well for the back end of the top 10. Who's right on with Thomas Vac at the moment, trying to capitalise and get past Hygo Poom, and he really needs to do that if he wants to try and stay with Jukka-Pekka Lalu, who's flying through that group.
Yeah, Thomas Vac is on 21 lap old hard tyres. Jeffrey Fournier is on 17 laps, so about 4 laps younger are the tyres on that Epic Racing car, number 97, just behind him. So Vac is really at a bit of a disadvantage and has got to defend if he wants any chance of finishing in the top 10 here. And don't forget Pascal Polenz as well, who didn't have a great qualifying. He's on 14 lap old hard tyres as well, so he is in an even stronger position in terms of tyre life. And Vac really surviving because of the DRS from Hygo Poom ahead of him. But here comes Fournier. He's going to try and move round the outside as both cars have got the DRS behind Heiko Poom. Oh, a late braking maneuver to stay ahead from Thomas Vack then. And now he's actually side by side with Heiko Poom, forced himself into making an overtake here, hasn't he? And look, through the middle comes Jeffrey Fournier. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 4. Shut your eyes, hold your breath, cross your fingers. They all just about squeeze through, and it's Vack that's got the inside, but that, of course, will become the outside for turn 6 as it's Jeffrey Fournier making a double move then up to 10th position there. And that's what we love to see from the former race winner.
Ooh, I thought it was a little bit reckless going down the middle there for a second, but you know what they say, he's French and he loves to overtake, and he has done that. A great 2 positions gain there for Jeff Fournier. Like you said, he's on fresher tyres than the people around him, so he really had to make that move work. But Jan Granqvist as well, he's still just about holding on to the back of Schluter, obviously with the DRS to help him there. I think Schluter just obviously pitting a couple of laps later, when he came out into the traffic, he didn't have to go through the traffic as hard as what Granqvist and Fischer did. So I think that might have helped him, as well as the 2 extra laps of life that he has. But we see it's up to 9/10 of a second now through this final sector. Do we think Schluter can break that DRS train? That would be quite something. Gone from 2 seconds down to breaking the DRS on Granqvist, that would be mighty impressive.
Oh, and look at this, Panzer diving up the inside. He's got 2 of the Zortax cars either side of him, and he looks like he's going to be ahead then going into turn 4. So Robin Panzer had a difficult start to this race, is cleared. Philip Pushka is cleared Matt Williams, but Williams refuses to yield. Goes back around the outside, I think, of Robin Panzer for 14th place. And now he is back. He's the meat in a Zortax breaded sandwich here, which is not ideal for him. Also, Heiko Poom has just pit and come out right behind these 3 on very, very fresh hard tyres again. So Philip Pushgate surely is going to be stuck on much older tyres then, but he does defend then into Jochen Rindt to try and protect his teammate here, if anything. And yeah, this battle getting very, very furious. But Matthew Williams really is not taking any prisoners today with the way he's racing, is he?
No, he certainly isn't. We saw that at the end of the first stint. He was, no matter who you were on track, he was giving you the hip and shoulder. But obviously, all very fair as well. We're not saying that it's not been fair. Let's see what happens here with Poom. Does he get all the way around the outside? He's still just about there. Both of them have the DRS as they head into turn 4. Yes, completes that overtake on this occasion. Are we going to see a response? Yes, we are, from Philip Pushker. He puts his nose down the inside, but doesn't manage to make that move come off.
While those 2 have been fighting, Panzer has been able to clear Matthew Williams. Don't forget as well about Luke Mitchell, who's now right on the tail of Philip Pushker himself. He pit about 13 laps ago for his set of hard tyres. Meanwhile, Schluter and Granqvist still in a bit of a stalemate, 7/10 apart then, as you see Carlos I wonder if TOP have got the same idea as Super Ventura here. Jan Granqvist has sort of realised, if I fight to try and hold on to the lead with Mark Schluter behind me, then I'm just going to lose time in this race. If I stay behind, benefit from the DRS, I'm going to have an overall a much faster race, and I'll be able to keep that 4-second buffer to the 2 TOP cars and Loic Moynier. And TOP have realised this as well. Carlos Martin is better off getting the slipstream off the back of Stefan Rurault rather than just sort of being at the front and giving a tow to Rurault. I guess it wouldn't really matter in the long run which car would have been ahead. But this way, Martin at least is getting DRS to protect from Loic Moynier's. Here we go. Heiko Poom now round the outside of Matthew Williams then and snatches away the final points paying position.
I tell you what, it's amazing watching the delta between Schluter and Granqvist throughout the lap. Sector 1, the gap comes down to about 4 to 5 tenths. Sector 2 and 3, it goes right up when there's no DRS zone to help Granqvist along. Let's see now, the TOP Esports cars still just settling into their own little rhythm, but Mounier is just keeping them honest, isn't he? He's pushing them along, and any mistake from either of these guys, he's going to be there to pounce at them, and obviously on his own though, so the TOP Esports cars can play this game as smart if their engineer kind of coaches them through this one. We see, was he pulling to one side there, Rualt? Yes, he was. You see Stefan Rualt peels into the pits now.
That is surprising because he pit on the same lap as Mark Schluter, didn't he? Lap 17, so he's done 24 laps on those harder tyres. He's decided he wants to try and undercut to keep track position against these two and potentially get involved with Grankvist and Schluter. But this really puts the pressure on. Grankvist and Schluter will have a few laps to respond, but not many, given how the undercut isn't exactly it's not exactly a slap strategy around here. It's certainly going to gain you quite a few seconds. Fisher is also following suit, Stevens and Shepard as well.
Yeah, so clearly quite a few guys have got the same idea, pitting on lap 43. It's going to put the pressure on Martin though with Munier now, because now Munier's got just one car ahead. There's no DRS for Carlos Martin. He could make the move and it might be a little bit easier for him, but let's see the next time they get to that DRS zones, as now Stefan Rualt's come out behind Thomas Vach. Will Thomas put up much of a fight? No, not really. Let's let Stefan go. You know, Thomas knows that his race isn't with Stefan on this occasion. Stefan's had a pretty good run with the traffic then, hasn't he? At least for now. Let's see what the guys ahead of him do. Will they stay out or will they pit? I imagine they're going to stay out. Obviously Fournier did have pretty fresh tyres only a few laps ago.
Yeah, of course. So Thomas Vach, very, very sensible on much older tyres than 27 lap old tyres. So Vach is sort of near the time when he'll probably have to pit as well. So that makes zero sense to really hold up Stefan Rualt and ruin Rualt's race, as it were. And he's already now on the back of Jeffrey Fournier and Pascal Pollens. So here we go. He's got the DRS uphill into turn 3. Side by side they go. Jeff makes a little bit of a go at it, but unfortunately he's got no grip in those tyres. So Stefan Rualt is now absolutely flying. 6/10 quicker than Mark Schluter in the first sector, and 2/10 quicker than Grankvist as well, for that matter. So yeah, the DRS and the fresh tyres really playing their part. And Rualt now once more tries the move into turn 6, but this time Pollens is not quite as cooperative as Thomas Vach was on the previous lap. No,
and that's always a pretty, well, one of, if not the hardest corner to make an overtake on as well down the inside. But you should be able to do something with the DRS, either on this straight or on the next one. Let's see what Stefan does. Does he just sit in for this next corner? Well, he thinks about it and he does go for the inside. Pulls off that overtake on this occasion. Dylan Fisher sets the fastest lap of the race as well on his fresh tyres. And Munier as well makes the move on Carlos Martin. Will it stick or will Martin get back up the inside, which turns into the outside for the next one? Let's see what happens here. No, Loic's got the inside. Great move.
That was very, very opportunistic. Very, very late dive into turn 4 from Loic Mounier. He's certainly not been short on bravery so far today. And Carlos Martin was really caught, not unawares, but certainly wrong-footed there. And are they both going to hit into the pits? No, they stay out another lap, but it's Grankvist now, who is the second of that leading group now to go into the pit. And now Mark Schluter has surely got to respond to that if he wants to stay ahead now.
I'm not sure, you know. He's proven once that even if people undercut him, he can take that time right out he is and make the overtake. So I think he might even go an extra lap. Let's see what he does. But Martin now, what's he going to do? Is he going to sit in? Is he going to go for the overtake? Who's that behind Martin as well? Is that a back marker? Yes, it is. So
it's Pushke, yes.
Yes, so back marker, so shouldn't feel too much pressure as Fournier gets a little bit wide at turn 3 there. Just a little bit of a lock-up as he follows Pascal Pollens. Just having a good race. Both Epic racing cars are having a good race actually so far. Been pretty clean for them, and Loic, I just love the bravery, you know? He's not just going to sit in behind the TOP sports cars, he's going to send it. He's here for a good race, and he's certainly running one right now. And
he's going to lead a lap. Here we go, because Mark Schluter enters the pit lane then. So be interested to see where he comes out relative to Jan Grankvist there. Stefan Rualt being held up by Chikapeka Lalu, Grankvist's teammate. Grankvist is crossing the start-finish line at the moment. Here we go. So it's going to be close between him and Mark Schluter. How much has he gained on this outlap? There is the Edge Esports car, and flying around the outside comes the Super Venturi of Jan Grankvist then. So once more, it's battle resumed just as it was at the end of the first pit stop. Grankvist undercuts by a lap this time and gets ahead of his championship rival Mark Schluter.
So, is there going to be a repeat of the last pit stop? Let's see. As we go yellow in sector 2, who are we seeing drop down the order? Something to do with Philip Pushka, maybe?
He was right behind Carlos Martin, wasn't he, on those fresher tyres, but a lap down. So potentially he was maybe trying to push too hard or lost it in the wake of Martin. Martin still, he's losing a little bit of time actually to Loic Moynier as well. Although there could be some shenanigans going on there with the timing screen. It shows them 6/10 apart then at the moment. Into the pits comes Carlos Martin then. So there we go. That's why he was gaining in the final sector. That does make sense. So this will promote Grankvist back up to second and Schluter back up to third. And surely it's only a matter of time before Moynier has to make what will be almost certainly his final stop as well. Because I have a feeling Grankvist and Schluter and Ruhr are all going to the end now, as is Martin.
Yeah, everyone going for a fairly standard strategy, only a few people with a couple of laps here and there over some of the others. Obviously, Schluter does have 1 lap advantage on his tyres compared to Jan Grankvist, but last time he had 2 laps advantage, and there was a little bit less complications for these guys with traffic on the pit exits this time as well, so I don't think the differential in the tyre will be as big as it was in the previous stint for Schluter, but even still I think he's got the pace to do something as... No! Carlos Martin! Oh no!
Open the gravel, and Martin's lost his front wing as well, so the two have tangled, I think. Coming into that looks like turn 4, I think, yes.
Oh, what a shame for those guys. Dylan obviously having best qualifying today. He was running a really, really solid race, and it did look like he had both of his wings, unlike Martin, so he will probably be able to continue, but I assume he's going to have some sort of damage or at least flat spotted tyres from that.
What it does is it opens up third place to Stefan Ruhl, and it potentially puts Moynier into a very, very clear 4th position to challenge potentially for that podium then. And probably look, Moynier's just come out behind the long-running Lalu and Polenz in the Super Venturi and the HRT respectively. So he's got 2.7 seconds to clear. But let's look at the replay then of how things went so wrong. So Fischer had undercut at pit first, is trying to defend into 4, a little bit of contact, and the wing's already gone from Martin, and then he just goes straight on.
Yeah, it looked like there was just a teeny tiny bit of contact as Martin did go to the inside. Yeah, just hits the back wheel and then got nothing, absolutely nothing in terms of braking or front end into the corner, and just takes Fischer with him and then pushes him around as well when they're trying to rejoin the track.
Yeah, it was a very, very late move from Carlos Martin. I guess we'll have to leave that one to the stewards to decide who's in the right and who's in the wrong, but certainly it's a shame for Dylan Fischer, who had such a fantastic 3/4 of the race, to still be looking good for a top 6. And he has emerged, I believe, in P9 at the moment, about 7/10 behind Tom Stevens. So there's a chance of getting another top best ever result here. Certainly Dylan Fischer would have been hoping for more from this race, and that's certainly not what he would have wanted to happen at all. But meanwhile, Mark Schluter sets 107.3, fastest lap of the race, in his pursuit of Jan Grankvist now. So the battle is very much on, and Grankvist is going to have to really pull out something special here in the last 21 laps to keep the relentless German behind him.
I know that he's just in P2 now and hasn't quite made the move yet, but I'm so impressed with Schluter this season. He's really, really stepped it up. Well, obviously, as has Grankvist, but obviously Jan was so close on a lot of occasions last year to being a race winner, but Schluter doing a great job, and that second stint was unbelievable. Is he going to be able to replicate it this time? It looks like you could potentially do it, only 3/10 off the back of Jan this time round, but you can see he doesn't actually gain that much in the DRS. Obviously, we did touch on Jan having a pretty rapid car in a straight line, really good top speed, so taking really good advantage of that at the moment, and that gap's only coming down about a tenth on each DRS straight, which is surprising.
Yeah, and look who's actually lapping quicker than the both of them the previous lap by about 0.3 of a second. It's Stefan Ruel, who's just 2.7 seconds in arrears. So Ruel is slowly, he's sort of stayed out of trouble because he avoided what happened to Martin and Fischer. So by undercutting earlier, that sort of worked out fairly well for him. And it's surprising that the tyres are still in fairly good nick at this phase. But Ruel then could still be effective. Anything happens up front to one or both of these drivers then as we go into lap 52 of 71, 20 laps to go. And Mark Schlitter is looking, as you say, very, very relentless. A man who really arrived in Super League when he got that second place last season at Barcelona for Green Stripes. Took that first win at Imola in another close battle with Jan Grankvist. And now, after getting pole position, Grankvist has really been the main threat to him here, and he has got to find a way through. But Jan Grankvist, who hasn't won since Shanghai back in, let's see, was it May or April, wasn't it? It was quite a while ago now, and he is desperate to taste champagne from the top step once more. And it's really only Mark Schlitter at the moment that is looking capable of stopping him.
Yeah, but the pressure is just it's on, but there hasn't really been an overtaking threat just yet. This does seem to be the closest that we've been, though, I think, so far. But yeah, it just hasn't quite got that last little bit just yet. But we saw last time it did come a little bit later on in the stint where the time really started to drop between these two, and there was say like a 2-second gap. Didn't happen right at the start of the stint, so there's still, you know, a good 18 laps to go in this race, and you can see again it's quite a bit under braking, but that straight line speed of that Super Venturi is very, very strong, as we see the other Super Venturi of Jukka-Pekka Laulu pits on this lap. Let's see where he filters out into. He's going to be rapid at the end of this race, I think, with very, very fresh tyres. Comes out in P11, so he'll definitely get somewhere in and around the top 10.
Yeah, while we're watching this fight, by the way, there's a very close pack behind Tom Stevens in 5th. So he's got Chris Shepherd and Dylan Fisher all over the back of him, and Fisher has in fact fought back and got up to 6th again past Chris Shepherd, and now he's trying to go around the outside of Tom Stevens then. The two Brits side by side into turn 4, almost tangling and locking wheels there, but Tom Stevens denies Dylan Fisher. We've seen him put in so many great recovery drives this season and in seasons past, and we've seen some great defensive drives from Tom Stevens as well. So Dylan Fisher, if he wants to get back to the top 5 to get his best ever result, he's got quite the job in front of him to recover from that contact with Carlos Martin, who I believe has sadly retired from the race since losing his front wing. And look at the way Fisher just sliding into the last corner. He's going for broke at the moment, isn't he? As Schlitter meanwhile still within 0.4 of Jan Grankvist in the fight for victory.
I'm impressed with Fisher. He's somewhat kept his head on and hasn't let that incident get the better of him, and he's still pushing on for a potential top 5 finish, which would be mega, you know, still, despite the fact that they had a crash. So yeah, I'd be happy if I was Dylan, but there's still a little way to go, so he just needs to keep his head on his shoulders and keep clean for the rest of the race. Like Munier, it's still a fair bit off the back of Ruel, but looking pretty steady in that P4 position. Again, still nothing quite happening between these two yet. I'm just waiting. All it takes is one dodgy corner from Jan, and he'll be right attacking the inside. Will Mark Schlitter. Wow, they get super close in the braking zone there. I thought he might have had a little bit of a thought about a dive, but this is definitely the closest I've been in the last circa 5 laps. Yeah,
Mark Schlitter is still waiting for that opportunity to present itself. But as you say, he's tucking right into the rear gearbox. By the way, Ruel got a 6th lap undercut on Loic Moynier, so it could be that towards the end of the race, if Ruel hasn't managed those tyres, well, because he's still lapping about the same lap times as Jan Grankvist in the lead here, 3.2 seconds up the road. So it could be that Roll is really going to have to start managing in the final stint, and that could allow Mounier to have a charge, have a chance of stealing away that final slot on the podium as well. So still plenty to play for then, with just over 15, 16 laps to go then here at the Red Bull Ring. And Mark Schluter 4/10 behind, trailing Jan Grankvist and matching him blow for blow at the moment.
I'm just waiting. It's like I'm just waiting for something to happen. It's been so calm so far, but I guess they are just using the heads. Roll isn't too far away, so if they start scrapping this early on, it could end badly for both of them. The moment it'll be looking like a two-way scrap, the last thing they want to do is make it a three-way scrap. So I can understand it, but as a commentator watching this race, I want to see a fight start.
You certainly do. I think Jan Grankvist wants the exact opposite of that now. I think he wants Mark Schluter to just stay where you are, arm's length, and don't try anything silly. And we can both get points for first and second. How does that sound, Mark? I think Mark would disagree and say, you give me the win and you come in second. And here we go, Pascal Pollens fighting away with Heiko Prüm and snatching away 8th position from the AKA Hero driver. And now Jeffrey Fournier fancies getting involved in this scrap as well. But that is Pascal Pollens, who did actually set a fastest lap of the race earlier on, 107.0 on his charge on 6-lap older medium tyres, I believe, whereas Heiko Prüm is on 10-lap older tyres. So he's definitely in a tricky position then, but non-positional more trickier in this race than holding on to the lead at the moment from the absolute force of this Mark Schluter. And this time he gets close. This time he pulls to the outside. Grankvist defends the inside. Surely he's going to break deep into the corner. Forces Mark Schluter to go the long way round. But now Schluter is going to just about try and pull alongside, and again an aggressive dive. But this leaves him vulnerable because look at how far along the outside Mark Schluter's going through turns 6 and 7. And he's done it. The lead is once more in the hands of the AG Sports driver. Fantastic move, Ryan.
Ooh. After he didn't quite get it done at turn 4, I thought the move was off for another lap, and then he fought straight back at 5. Unbelievable racecraft from both of these guys, going side by side through that middle sector. It's unbelievable. Is Grankvist going to respond though?
Well. Very well judged.
Yeah, it was.
Because I thought for sure that Mark Schluter was going to run into the back of him, but you said that Mark Schluter got it done. It's not done yet.
Oh.
Up the inside with the DRS into turn 3 comes the Filipino Finn in the Super Venturi then. And so the points leader wants maximum points once again. Mark Schluter now in defensive mode. The DRS wide open as they go into turn 4. This time Grankvist tries to go from the inside, has to back out again. So Mark Schluter survives another lap then. And there we go. That could well be Jan Grankvist's best chance of retaking that lead, going away from him now, because look at how confident Mark Schluter is in that middle sector.
Yeah, the move was almost undone there for a second, but this is just feels like a repeat of that second stint. It was, Schluter was sitting in for a little bit, and then he just, when he was confident enough and knew the time was right, he made the overtake and started to drive away ever so slightly, and it feels like that. But you could see though that when Grankvist had the DRS, his top speed was absolutely flying down the straight, and
here he comes
look
again.
at the closing speed, it's crazy. Obviously
Grankvist is driving
right now, but
it's not a Super Venturi, it's a Super Rocket at the moment. The way it's in a straight line, it's just slowing it down and getting it turned into the corners that's the tricky part. And that's what's stopping Mark Schluter from breaking away. It's once he gets into the fast corners here, sort of turn 6 and 7, where that AG Sports car has got much more downforce, potentially a little bit more rear wing on that car, that's allowing it to sort of pull away here. But yeah, as long as there's no corners and it's just DRS in straight line, then Grankvist can hold on to him as long as he stays within those that second 9/10 sort of margin, isn't it?
yeah, but we are right on the edge of that sort of 9/10 to a second gap here, which is not good if you're Jan Grankvist. If you're Mark Schluter and Edge Esports, you'll be rubbing your hands together right now. That gap's looking very, very strong as things stand. I think this lap he could potentially lose the DRS. Will Jan regret not putting just a couple of clicks more wings on? I'm not sure. I think he'll still be happy with P2, but he'll be desperate for that win.
Yeah, and even more good news for OG Sports, because Chris Shepherd is holding on to 9th at the moment, and this will be the first time this season that Edge would have got both cars home in the top 10. Of course, they nearly managed it on a couple of occasions with Shepherd in 11th and 12th, but this would be a big result for them, especially in the Teams Championship, where they've had such a tricky start to the season, and now they're finally really starting to come into their own at this phase. And Grankvist, he's dropping out of that second barrier, as you say, just about getting back into it with a very aggressive final corner there. But Grankvist is really taking risks to try and stay in this victory battle, isn't he?
Yeah, and just to touch on Chris Shepherd, it feels like he's really starting to find a bit of form again at the moment. We know he's rapid. He's done it for years and years, but he's had a little bit of success in some other series as well, and getting inside the top 10 in Super League will only, boost his confidence for sure. Jukka Pekalalu's taken quite a lot of time at Hygo Puma as well. Obviously, he pitted way later than anybody else, so that was expected, but he's taken about, I think, 4 seconds out of Poom in front of him, so he should be breaking into the top 10 within the next lap or so.
Yeah, it looks like a late stop for Stephen Lexo, who qualified 5th on the grid. He's already been into the pits 3 times as well, so his strategy has been a little bit compromised in the TX3, and now it could be he's going to come out in 15th on the soft tyres. It could be that this is a late effort to go for fastest lap. The race as Polenz is overtaken by Jeffrey Fournier for 7th position. That was quite the dive from Jeffrey, but the Frenchman finds a way through as Fournier.
Yeah, and again, for Jeff, very similar to Chris, having a really good run today. And all it takes is one result to go a little bit more in your favour, and it turns your whole season around. It just boosts your confidence, makes you feel like you can compete at this level and do a great job. Top 7 would be very impressive from Jeff, and impressive from Epic Racing in general. Obviously missing what was meant to be their primary driver, Fabio, 6th of this season, which was a huge loss at the start of the year after his bike accident. But finally just starting to make things work over at Epic.
Yeah, Loic Moynier has been doing very good. It's a double French lineup, isn't it? Moynier and Fournier. Almost sounds like they rhyme. In fact, they do. But yeah, Loic Moynier really showing what he can do in Super League and fulfilling that promise that he showed in Barcelona. But he's been such a factor in so many other high-level R-Factor 2 championships within and without GPVWC. So it's great to see him on track for a top 4. And as potentially, if Rot hits trouble near the end, he's gained about half a second on him previous lap, has Loic Moynier. So there's every chance he could start to get close, but I think Ruel, with that massive undercut, might be able to just manage the gap well enough to hold the Frenchman at bay then. But this lead battle, Grankvist, you say what you like about it, he absolutely refuses to give up, doesn't he? And that's one of the things that we absolutely love about him, don't we? Because not the kind of driver who takes defeat sitting down, does he? He always works super hard to try and find that little advantage that will put him back ahead. He's a fantastic qualifier, fantastic race driver, and he shows real spirit. Sisu, as they call it in Finland, of course. So I'm sure Jan is going to give it his level best, but perhaps Schluter has just about got the edge on him at the present moment.
Well, he's had the taste of winning now. Obviously, the season, getting his first win. When you know what it feels like to win a GPVWC race. I'm not going to say Super League race because I've never had that feeling.
Well, I've been a team owner in one. I've not felt that.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Schluter has a little bit of a moment through turn 3 there. Just struggled a little bit under braking, and now Grankvist, instead of being 8 tenths behind us, half the gap to just under 4 tenths then. So there could be a small window here that Jan Grankvist can pierce his way through and steal victory away from AG Sports and Mark Schluter.
Yeah, he's not going to give up. He wants it. He wants that win. and so does Schluter, but I think Jan might just have a little bit left in the tank. This is coming out of nowhere, but flipping heck, Schluter's put in a good middle sector there. He pulled that gap right back out.
There we go, 29.7 in the middle sector, but it was, of course, 2/10 quicker the previous lap, and a really strong first sector. Fastest first sector of the race, actually, from Jan Grankvist. Last time around, 16.9. So there we go. And Jan Grankvist was actually a tenth slower, so it really is that middle sector that's really proving decisive at the present moment then on lap 65 of 71. So another 6 to go. And Mark Schluter has just got to hold on and make sure that he doesn't make any big mistakes under immense pressure from the championship leader.
We've only got 6 laps to go. Is something going to happen for anybody? It seems that there hasn't been too many overtakes for a little while now. The gaps are still quite close as well throughout the field. Obviously there's a few big ones here and there, but there is some small gaps. Fischer still on the attack against Stevens, as well as we can see this happening live. Fischer again just close, but hasn't quite got that move yet. There's still time though. It's still time for this move to come off for him as he thinks about the inside, but thinks better of it in the end. We've also got Pollens here. That was great timing, actually. I was about to point that out. Is all over the back of, who's this? Jeff Fournier. He's trying to catch here.
And this is really interesting because Fournier and Pollens, 15-14 lap Altards, are lapping significantly over half a second faster than Stevens and Fischer ahead, who are only 1.7 seconds up the road. So Tom Stevens, he's done well to hold off Dylan Fischer, but Fournier and Pollens, that combined effort could make things very interesting in this dying phase of the race, as Grankvist again starting to really mount up his challenge in that first sector, which is probably the best chance he's got to pass, because the middle sector here is where Mark Schluter really excels. And starts to pull that gap once more as Fischer now dives to the inside at turn 3 and pulls ahead of Tom Stevens, but Stevens undercuts underneath him and gets a brilliant drive to get back through. And in fact, I think Stevens also got the DRS here, so the straight line speed of that AKA Hero car is not enough to hold on into turn 4. And the more these battle, the more it drags Jeffrey Fournier towards them.
Yeah, they don't want to battle too hard. There's still 5 laps for Fournier and Pollens to catch up. Someone else has been very quietly going about their business. Jukka-Pekka Lalu's jumped into the top 10, up to P9 now, as whoa, that got a little bit closer for Grankvist and Schluter there into turn 3.
Yeah, I feel like most of my commentary is turning into just noises whenever somebody gets close to the person in front of them, but I'm sure Caitlin would disapprove. But anyway, Grankvist then once more, yeah, he's able to get close into turn 3, but Schluter has sort of got the measure of him now. He's able to sort of just turn in across and block off any attempt, and more importantly, restrict his drive out of that corner. Whereas Dylan Fischer has, even with he's got the same tyre life as well. Him and Stevens pit on exactly the same lap. But there's a sort of mounting pressure from behind the closer that Jeffrey Fournier, who's gained another 3-4 attempts on the pair of them. Here comes Dylan Fischer then up the inside with the DRS. It's wheel to wheel into turn 4. Fischer pulls ahead. Stevens just holds on to the rear end of his car there. And Dylan Fischer gets back into the top 5, which would be a fantastic recovery for him if he can just stay there. But now Tom Stevens has got more defensive work to do because Jeffrey Fournier is well and truly closing on him. And here's Grankvist once more, refusing to give an inch to Mark Schluter.
Yeah, it was great move from Dylan. I'm sure he'll be over the moon with the top 5 considering how things went at the lap sort of 50 mark or whatever it was. But I don't think Tom Stevens will be finished though. Those two guys seemed really well matched against each other. It was just the DRS that helped Dylan, and as I say that now, is the DRS that's going to be helping Tom up into the braking zone of turn 3. Darts to the inside. Does he have the traction on exit to complete the move? Just about, yes. Who got the DRS though? It was Tom Stevens as well. Tom got the DRS, so...
And here comes Fournier. Oh, he has caught up to them, so Jeff is coming. There's no stopping him, it seems, today. He's just been absolutely relentless, and at Epic Racing, if things go well, they could be 4th and 5th if Fournier can just find a way through. But now Dylan Fisher back to 6th. He's going to once more get into defensive mode, and still defending is Mark Schluter. He cannot get rid of Jan Grankvist with just under 3 laps left to go. He's like a little penny stuck to the bottom of your shoe with chewing gum is Jan Grankvist. You just can't get rid of it, and you feel it every step of the way. Schluter
have been thinking, all I need is Jan Grankvist to miss an apex or something. I've broken the DRS, then I can run. And he just hasn't. Grankvist has driven a near perfect stint here. Obviously, yes, he got overtaken, but he's managed, even though his car is significantly slower through second and third sector, it's 40 and close up to the back, sorry. He still managed to just drive that car well enough to where he can keep within that DRS zone. Fisher isn't able to attack on this lap, neither is Fournier or Pullins, but we've got a massive four-way scrap now for the edge of the top 5. Let's see what Grankvist can do this time.
Yeah, here we go then, penultimate lap, and Schluter once more be looking well into the wing mirrors to make sure he's covered off Jan Grankvist. Grankvist, will he get desperate towards the end of the race, or will he just hold his head and hope for the track to just open up in front of him? Because Schluter knows any little mistake and the win could slip away here, so he's got to be inch perfect here in his defense. Meanwhile, Tom Stevens has got 5 cars all behind him within about 2 seconds. Fisher, Fournier, Poland, and now Jukka-Pekka-Laulu, fastest of all of them. He's pit later than all of them, and he is getting involved at the back of that train as well. But the problem here, look at this, Poland goes really deep into turn 3, and now he's got, unfortunately for him, Laulu for company, so that could be decisive for Poland. As here we go, Schluter starts the final lap of the race with Grankvist still nipping at his heels 6/10 behind.
Are we going to see an almighty lunge from Jan Grankvist? He's got a decent drive out of turn 1, half a second to gap as we head down the straight. He's getting closer, closer, closer. Is he going to think about it? No, he sits in on this occasion, but we've got another DRS straight coming up here. Does he get good traction? It's a decent drive, but I don't think it's quite enough to make the move. Is he going to think about it? No, he's miles off the back still. Now we're going to head into the stronger sectors for Mark Schluter as well.
Yes, and Grankvist senses now that defeat might be inevitable. As we see yellow in Sector 2, has it all gone wrong in the battle for 5th position? Let's hope not. It seems to have recovered from whatever it was. But Grankvist now sees the Edgy Sports car ebbing away into the distance as Tom Stevens desperately trying to defend from Dylan Fisher and Jeffrey Fournier there for 5th place. And looks like Poland has caught right back up as well. Dylan Fisher gets into the DRS, and this could be his last opportunity as Schluter is coming towards the start-finish line now. And around the outside goes Dylan Fisher, but it's too deep. Tom Stevens slots his way back through, but it's Schluter that has won the Austrian Grand Prix from Jan Grankvist as Poland is just held at bay by Jeffrey Fournier there. And it's a shame we couldn't see Mark Schluter across the line, but there he is. The two go side by side, and I think they really enjoyed that battle. That was a superb show that they put on for us. Roald comes through in 3rd position as Loic Moynier gets his best and first finish in Super League in 4th. And Stevens, I think, is now just coming through the final sector to hold on to 5th position by the skin of his teeth from Fisher, Fournier, Poland, and Laulu.
What a race. What a race, Ed. Unbelievable. We had battles, not just obviously for the lead, top 5. It was amazing. Not a mix of strategy in terms of the amount of stops, but when people were pitting, the undercuts, people going long, it was, that was special. That's my favourite race of the season so far. I'm really sorry, Caitlin, that you weren't here to commentate on this one. This has been unbelievable. What a race by these guys.
You think you feel bad? At the end of the Academy race on Monday, I said, look forward to hearing Caitlin Penny in the commentary box. It turns out, unintentionally as it happens, I lied to everyone. So and ended up replacing Caitlin. So. But of course that wasn't necessarily by choice. I think hopefully Caitlin will be back for the next round at Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time. But from Mark Schluter's point of view, this is not only a big result for him getting his second ever Super League win after another close battle with Jan Grankvist. It always seems to go that way whenever Schluter comes out on top. But this closes him significantly, puts him into second in the Drivers' Championship once more. And now, really, you've got to say he is one off, if not the main rival, Jan, going forward. Now that he's only about, what would that be? 35 points behind now. He's cut another 5 points out of that championship lead today.
Yeah, just slightly plucking away at the championship.
No, it's still 40 points, isn't it? Because it was Stevens
still 40?
So him and Stevens have just swapped positions, effectively.
And that's what happens when you don't have the championship standings up when you're green like I don't. But Granko is still managing the gap in the championship. He's doing an almighty job. Even though he's not won on this occasion, he's still in that top three, easy.
Yeah, so let's go through the finishing order then. Mark Schluter takes his second win of the season for Edge Esports ahead of Jan Grankvist after a brilliant back and forth battle. It looked like Grankvist had the top speed, but Schluter had the track position and just enough tire life and speed in the middle sector to hold on. Stefan Ruhr, I believe, takes his first podium of the season then for TOP Esports. Yes, his best finisher previously was 8th in Spain, so that's great news to see Ruhr, the former 2021 champion, back on the podium. Like Mounier takes his first finish for Epic Racing Team in 4th, ahead of Tom Stevens then, who nonetheless recovered really well from outside the top 10, 11th to gain 6 places to finish 5th. Dylan Fisher will still get his best ever result in 6th, but after starting 2nd and the collision with Carlos Martin, he will certainly slightly rue what could have been a chance at a top 4 or top 5 at the end of that one. Jeffrey Fournier, a great recovery from him to finish P7 and to beat Pascal Polenz, with Lalu's late charge getting him into 9th. Chris Shepard rounds out the top 10 to make it a double top 10 for G Sports for the first time this season with both entries. Thomas Vack just misses out though on the top 10, the sole RSR to finish the race, but he gets home in 11th to score some valuable points for that squad. Heigo Poom is 12th in the second aka Hero car. Robin Panzer recovers to 13th after a slightly messy race, losing his front wing. Handgraf takes 2 more valuable points. I think that's his joint best finish for Green Stripes Racing. And the final point taken by TX3 and Stephen Lexell. Matthew Williams, a little bit messy for him, running long in the first stint and getting into incidents. He finishes 16th ahead of his teammate Philip Pushke. And they are the last finishers, with Luke Mitchell, Carlos Martin and Zolt Zux retiring. In the case of Martin and Zux, quite spectacularly. Janos Braxuk also failed to make it to the end. Janssen Bintz, 2 retirements in a row for the Luxembourg driver. Janssen will be hoping for a better run at Silverstone, which I know is a circuit he goes much better at. Istvan Singel also being knocked off by Tom Stevens in the early phase of the race at turn 6 in a collision there. Moritz Kropp also failing to finish, as did George Salagianis, Adam Maguire, Daniel Skipkowski and Matthias Moose, with the bottom 3 not getting to the end of the first lap. So then, that is the final finishing order, but the interview room is populating. Of course, British Grand Prix next up on the calendar, 18th of July. Make sure you don't miss the next exciting phase in the championship as we reach the halfway mark. But at the halfway mark, Ryan, got some people that want to talk to us. So who shall we talk to first?
Well, as usual, I am going to peel off for the interviews, as I just have to go to tablet duty, unfortunately, and drop tablets off at my grandparents' house. But wow, what a race, huh?
Yeah, I've really
enjoyed that was unbelievable. It's been great. Yeah, it's been definitely my favourite race to watch this season, and to commentate on. The drivers were outstanding on this occasion. It's a shame about the incident on lap 1, and obviously with Fisher getting turned around, but the rest of it seemed very clean racing. We saw some great committed moves, especially around the outside in that middle sector, and people were fair, giving each other space. It provided great entertainment for all of us in the comms box and those of you watching on YouTube. But thank you from me to everybody. Vincent, obviously on cameras as usual. I will be back in 2 weeks' time for Silverstone.
Oh, thanks for that, Ryan. And as you let Ryan Elliott exit the commentary box, let's let in one of our finishers from the race. Shall we do reverse podium order to start with then? Let's first hear then from our third place finisher, Stefan Ruelt for TOP Esports. So, Stefan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Congratulations then, Stefan, your first podium of the season. And it was a really interesting one. Starting fourth on the grid, and then getting well into the mix with your teammate, Carlos Martin. It was interesting that Carlos let you through early on in the race, and that allowed you to sort of undercut near the end. You undercut Loic Monia by about 6 laps and were able to get that 10-second buffer on him and hold on to a third position then. So there was some hairy moments here and there, but you really seem to have things under control in that third place battle.
Yeah, it's been a while since I did one of these. So maybe 2022 probably. But happy to be back. Yeah, indeed, was interesting race. So the first stop, I stopped later, and I noticed the undercut was really powerful. So I said, whatever we do, let's do an undercut now, because otherwise I'll lose track position, and I lost a lot of P2P to go through the traffic. So I needed the undercut. So that's why I pitted so much earlier than Carlos and Loic. And then I was able to hold on, even though the pace really dropped near the end. The pace compared to Jan and Mark, but they were just too far up the road. So happy to be able to keep third.
And a word on Carlos Martin, because obviously it's a shame that him and Dylan Fisher came together. Of course, you undercut them both by a significant margin anyway, so that would have happened behind you on the road. But obviously you're working so closely together with Carlos, so it's a shame, obviously, not to get the double team result. But I guess the podium must ease the pain somewhat for TOP.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's a real shame. I mean, Carlos works really, really hard to help the team to prepare for the races, and just to not finish is really a shame. So, but we'll be back for Silverstone, and I'm sure we'll do our best again then. In practice, we're really close, swapping best lap times all the time. So I'm sure he would have gotten a great result as well.
Looking ahead to Silverstone, then, good track for you. Do you think TOP are going to be in the mix for podiums once more?
I think so. The car feels good. The upgrades work. That Carlos managed to choose. So I think we will definitely have a good one in Silverstone as well.
Fantastic. Well, we absolutely look forward to it. Thanks for talking to us, Stefan, and congrats on your first podium of the season.
Thanks, guys.
So as we let Stefan Ruelt leave the interview room, let's allow in our second place finisher, Jan Grankvist from Super Venturi, and of course, our championship leader. Oh, sorry, Jan. Dragged you in mid-sentence there. But we now are joined by Jan Grankvist, who unfortunately just missed out on victory. Jan, it was a fantastic race with Mark. You were matching him blow for blow throughout each stint, undercutting him by a couple of laps each time, and then using that straight line speed to challenge him. It was a thrilling finish. And obviously, Mark was just able to hold on in the end. So obviously, you maintain that lead in the championship by exactly 40 points now over Mark. So in the end, your lead hasn't been cut into too much or at all, actually. But there must be a little bit of disappointment that the win was so near yet so far today.
Well, to be fair, okay, it was a very enjoyable race today. So yeah, I'm actually quite stoked about that and happy for Mark. Well, to be fair, I'm also I've got a bit of mixed emotions. There were some hairy moments during the race, but overall, my mood's pretty positive from this race. But yeah, what should I even say? It was really interesting with the setup. I knew we were going to get, or we were going to have an extremely strong setup this round, but it surprised me that our setup was strong, but only against our regular rivals. But then, in fact, people like Dylan Fisher just caught us like out of nowhere. I had no idea there was even that kind of pace possible from that car, but he surprised us, got P2 in quali, but something unfortunate happened to him mid-race. And but yeah, I'm just a bit speechless with all of the stuff that happened that race. A bit overwhelming even.
You're speechless. I'm the commentator. I got to think of something to say. But on Dylan, I think Carlos Martin was battling him after the final pit stop and just made contact, lost the front wing, and then sort of went straight on at turn 4, unfortunately tangling more with Dylan Fisher. So that was why he lost time and eventually finished 6th rather than in the top 4 or 5 in the end. But nonetheless, going back to yourself, like you said, there was that decision that was fairly brave to go for a lot of top speed. And did you know it was going to maybe sacrifice pole position in qualifying, but that you'd come back in the race? Or did you think, did you not expect Mark to be in front of you in qualifying as well?
Well, no, actually, I had every intention to even run a slightly lower wing. I had no idea that wing higher than what I ran today was going to be even quicker in quali. So that was, I mean, I kind of knew that it was possible that others might try higher wings if they hadn't quite got the suspension set up quite right. But for me personally, I actually spent a lot of time just testing every other car in the field, and it still stands that our car is somewhat 2 and some tenths off the pace. So we've done some magic with the setup that managed to completely mask that for us, and Lalo managed to grab a respectable P9 from it. So we're overall really happy because by every mean, this round was going to be yet another drop round for us, almost Canada-esque, but I stumbled upon something in the setup and built on it basically the whole week, every now and then spending a few hours on the sim, and I managed to get us really strong for the whole, I mean, quali and race. So can't be mad about that. There's the best that we could have done.
Yeah, I said in commentary that you are that you never give up, that you are absolutely relentless. I talked about sisu, which was, of course, the Finnish word for that resilience, essentially. So, I'm sure you'll like that when you go listen back to that. But yeah, you really proved it today. And I have to say, after the disappointment of Canada and you getting immediately back on the podium in Spain, you've really made sure that Canada, like you say, a drop round, just a blip, and that you've really gotten back to your very, very best, which is exactly what I and all your fans, I think, had hoped to see.
Yeah, definitely.
That wasn't a question. I just wanted to praise you. Anyway, I obviously, well done the second place. Hard luck on not quite being able to snatch victory from Mark, but fantastic racing today. You put on a superb show, Jan, and as a commentator, can't ask for any better.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right, so I think that's all the questions I had for Jan. So I will let him go back to the interview room. Shall we have a word with our race winner, Mark Schluter, then? I'm sure he is going to be in a very, very good mood, certainly. So we're joined now by Edgy Sports' very own and a winner for only the second time in his GPVWC Super League career. It's the one, the only, Mark Schluter, winner of the Austrian Grand Prix. Mark, pole position, and a fantastic fight with Jan throughout the entire race. And in the end, you just about came out on top despite the massive straight line speed that Jan had at his disposal. You must be delighted with that.
Yeah, I'm very, very delighted with that. I think we still have a bit of a better car. Didn't really expect Jan to fight for the win, maybe a podium, but he kept me on my toes. They were slow in the middle sector, but like a rocket ship on the straights. It was very hard to keep him behind. I needed to nail turn 1 and turn 3, otherwise he would have got me.
Indeed, yes. And there are a couple of moments where we saw, especially towards the end, you just about getting it stopped in time for turn 3 and sliding on the brakes slightly, which opened up just a little bit of opportunity for Jan, but you quickly recovered and got under control. I'm interested to know what was the rationale behind pitting late at the end of each stint. Did you think at the end you'd have the tyre life advantage over Jan? And was that what motivated that, knowing that you had the slightly quicker car, especially in the middle sector?
Yeah, I mean, the tires were pretty much decent still after every stint. Maybe the soft tire was dead, but that's a soft tire. I probably could have done a longer stint in the middle if Jan didn't undercut. And yeah, I was just trying to maybe get a tire advantage, especially in the middle sector. But yeah, it was just one lap in the end. I don't think that made such a difference. I think it was just my cornering speed that kept me ahead in the end.
And Mark, speaking of cornering speed, I forget exactly which lap it was. I think it was 56, 57 or something near the middle of that final stint. But there was a moment where you tried to go make a move at turn 4 and Jan blocked you off. And you simply just went around the outside of him at turn 6 in the middle sector where you've been so strong all day, of course. That was incredibly brave. I'm still not sure quite how you did it without running into the back of him. But what was your perspective on that?
Well, I copied my buddy Steven Lexer, who did the same with some guys in the Superlights race, and I just thought, yeah, if I am faster in those turn 6, turn 7, I just might try it also, and luckily it turned out to be a good one.
So, Mark, final question for me. 2 wins in the books, and you're up to second in the championship, 40 points behind Jan Grankvist then. And you've gotten some important points for Edge. I believe they're much closer to TOP now with a double top 10 finish for you and Chris than they were at the start of today. How do you feel about how the championship's been going? Because obviously you started with those 2 retirements, such disappointment, but you've bounced back in a spectacular way. I think over the last 4 races, you've easily been the top scorer with 2 wins and 2 second places. So you got to feel you've been in this sort of phase of the championship, the big star, and that things are really going your way at the moment.
Yeah, that 2 retirements still is a little bit of a bite in the butt, but yeah, had to take those. We bounced back great, especially since Imola, and yeah, hope we can keep this up and get the points difference between me and Jan, yeah, even closer until the end, and maybe keep the championship alive until the very last race. That's our goal.
Well, if you keep driving like you did today, Mark, then we're in for an really exciting second half of the championship. Congrats on your second career victory. And I'm sure we've not heard the last of you from the top step of the podium this season.
Thank you.
Right, so as we let Mark Schluter leave the commentary box victorious once more, who shall we talk to next? How about another man who got his best career finish, his first finish in Super League? That's Mr. Loic Moynier. So, Epic Racing's Loic Moynier joins us now. Loic, fantastic job today. P4 in the end, and you were right in the mix of things, and especially the first half of the race with the Dylan Fisher and the 2 TOP drivers. So you've got to feel, even though the podium was just out of reach, Stefan had just too big of a gap near the end for you to close in, that you got the most out of today, and a great team result for Epic Racing as well, with Jeffrey in P7.
Yeah, that was one very good qualifying. My second lap was ruined by Prix. Unfortunately, I could have went even further up on the grid, but didn't manage to strong it out. Still managed to sit in the DRS train first part, let the strategy play out. Dylan was an interesting alternative that we could take advantage of with the TOP cars. And I knew the undercut was powerful, so I was in radio with Mark, giving information and giving it back, and we were trying to work out how to get him the best results.
Of course, the advantages of being an Edge Esports team owner as well.
So yeah, I asked Jeffrey, and he was very kind to tell me it was okay to work with my boys.
So it must be a proud moment for you, not only yourself P4, but your driver getting his second career victory.
Oh yeah,
and starting to really get involved in that drivers' championship fight.
I had no doubt he was in the championship fight all along.
Of course.
Just took a bit of time to get started, but when we get there now, we're there. Yeah, just working out with Mark. Very happy with him. His results. We talked about how we're going to tackle the race and what kind of car we had. We knew we could do something very good. It's just a matter of working out the DRS train the best way and the undercuts and all that stuff. But
So,
yeah,
like,
thank you
I
for-
know. Oh, sorry, go on, Karen.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Geoffrey for renting me his car. Well, and giving it to me. I don't pay anything, but thank you very much. Good car. And to my competitors was a good race on my side.
Well, I'm sure he absolutely appreciates hearing that. And just a final word on yourself. I know you had such a strong qualifying in Spain, and the race, obviously, with that penalty, didn't quite go to plan. So it must be a huge relief to finally get that P4, that big result to your name in Super League. Do you think in the second half of the season you can get on the podium, or do you think your focus is more just keeping on getting good points consistently from now on?
Well, I have to keep working on my pit limiter because it didn't really work out in Spain, but that's because my wheel is having a connector issue. And my pit limiter is a button that's not on my wheel. I have to go on my keyboard. My buttons don't work anymore. So I'm still working.
You should have a little extended finger or something that just over the P key on the keyboard, maybe.
No, my keyboard is left to my thigh, so that's good luck.
Oh, right. Okay. You thought of everything. Right?
Yeah, I'm genius.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you finished P4 today. So thanks for talking to us, Luke. Any last things before I let you
go? No. Thank you for the broadcast. I will probably enjoy watching that back a lot.
I imagine you will, especially when the TOP cars swap positions and I said that they were scared of you. Anyway, thank you very much, Luke. Well done, the P4, the first of many great results we're going to see from you in Super League this season, I'm sure.
Thank you.
So, as we let Luke Monier leave the commentary box, I think next point of order is let's talk to Dylan Fisher, P6 on the road today after a fantastic qualifying performance and a brilliant first stint as well. Oh, sorry to drag you in mid-sentence, but here is AK Hero's very own Dylan Fisher. So Dylan, obviously it started so well today. P2 on the grid and a really, really strong first stint where you fought with Mark Schluter all the way. And then really it was after that first pit stop phase where Jan Grankvist undercut you that it started to become much more difficult for you. And then it ended with the collision with Carlos, unfortunately. That sort of ruled you out of fighting for the podium positions, and you eventually recovered back up to P6 right behind Tom Stevens after a fantastic fight near the end. You really were at the center of pretty much all the action today, I think it must be said. And as much as there's a frustration to get P6 in Super League, that was really, really hard fought today. And you seemed to impress a lot of people. Jan seemed very, very surprised, especially to see you running up the front in qualifying.
Yeah, well, one thing I'm going to say is I was surprised. It was not expected at all, really. You know, you feel the car's good, but then we've had that a couple times this year. Canada, it felt all right. Wasn't great. So I think this is the first time I think I can say I was disappointed with P2 in quali. Like, it was not a good lap at all, but I think Mark could say the same. So, but yeah, things happen in the race. We made mistakes. The medium wasn't as good as in practice. The hard was better than it was in practice. It's just unfortunate.
Sorry, I shouldn't have burped during that answer. My apologies. Should remember to mute.
How dare you?
But I know your best ever result, and I'm here. I am making weird noises. I seem to have been making weird noises anytime somebody got close. Like your battle with Tom at the end, I was going all the time because I was amazed that
I
you
had a
just
couple of
avoided
those
hitting
moments
into
as well.
Wow, of course. I think commentating is difficult. Try being a driver, yeah. But yeah, obviously, I know you had, like you alluded to earlier, some really tricky races earlier this season, but it really feels like, was this a circuit that really played to your strengths, or do you think you've really learnt from, obviously, all your hard knocks over the first 7 races?
I mean, from a driving perspective, I know what I was doing wrong. I was driving the car completely wrong at the start of the year. If I remember in pre-season testing, I openly said that this car was not one that suited me. So I've just had to really alter the way that I drive. And let's not forget, Hygo, Stein, Arsen have all worked really hard on the setup. So it's just been massive team effort, really.
Indeed, it has, and obviously you put on a fantastic show. Great to see AKA Hero get loads of screen time, and yourself as well, of course. Obviously, with that P6 now under your belt, and you starting to gain like a little bit more confidence. How are you feeling going into the second half of your first? I think it's your first Super League season, isn't it? If I remember correctly.
First full one.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Obviously, you know, Pete runner-up in Super Lights last season, getting a couple of pole positions, and you've really carried on that strength in qualifying today. So do you feel like second half of the season's going to continue this momentum, or do you think you're going to take it race by race? Because Silverstone next up, of course. So is that a good track for you?
I mean, we very much have to take it race by race. If I'm honest, we don't really know what we did right here. So, you know, it's going to have to be race by race. Silverstone is not a great circuit for me at all, really, in high downforce cars. So, but yeah, this is not normally a good track for me, and look how it ended up.
Exactly. You can't count your chickens before they hatch, as they say, although I'm sure you're not a chicken farmer, so...
I have my hobbies.
Of course. Yeah, by the way, I think the polls are about to close in the UK now, so it's officially too late to vote if you've not done so already. So just not trying to make a party political broadcast, but I just noticed that in the back of my eyes. But anyway, thanks very much for talking to us, Dylan. Congrats on the P6 and the front row in qualifying. I'm sure we're going to see that's not the last we've heard of you being in fantastic show, because I know obviously seeing you have a little bit of a tricky start to life in Super League, and I know you were really disappointed after some of those early races, and it's so great to see you running up front, because I watched, having commentated a bit on Super Lights last season, I knew what you were capable of at your best, so it's really great to see you deliver on that.
You're going to make me cry.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway, thank you. So.
Okay, I thought that was just mildly supportive, but okay. I didn't realize that was life-changing praise for you.
Yeah.
It's the first nice thing you've ever said about me yet.
First nice thing anyone's ever said about me.
That's because I'm not going to commentate you on very often, because I'm always in a leagues too high of what I commentate on. But anyway, thanks for coming to talk to us, Dylan. Congrats to yourself on an AKA here on a best finish of the season so far, P6. I'm sure that's not the last we've heard of you in the top 6 this season.
Yeah, we shall hope. Thank you.
Right, so only one person left to talk to who's been waiting very, very patiently, and it's Super Venturi's very own Jukka-Pekka Lally. So, Jukka-Pekka joins us now. Interesting race for you, of course, qualifying a little bit further down the pack after a slightly tricky qualifying session, and then fighting a way through with a very, very late stop at the end to finish P9 JPL. It was a really good race for you in terms of every time we cut to you, you seem to be making moves on fresher tires than all the people around you. So it was a well-managed race. Do you think P9 was given where you started, was the best case scenario for you today? Because obviously you were just at the back of a huge train of cars fighting for 5th as well. So I know obviously there's a little bit of frustration there, but realistically, P9 is a good day for you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if someone would have said before the race, would I take P9? I would have said absolutely. I mean, it's easy to be kind of disappointed with seeing P5 only 1 and 8 seconds in front of me or something at the finish line. But at the end of the day, I think I have to be realistic. The pace wasn't exactly there to fight with those cars, I don't think. I think the strategy was pretty good. So I think that was mostly what kept me in a fight with them. And yeah, I mean, overall, the result is pretty good for myself and the team as well.
And it's important you mention a team's championship, because I believe that 9th place means Super Venturi were one of the highest scoring teams today, of course, along with Edge Esports as well. So obviously you beating Chris to that 9th place obviously is a big part of that as well. Not just that great battle we saw at the front with Jan and Mark So you can definitely feel proud of that performance today. Even on the bad days, if you can just scrape a couple of points, finish in the top 10, then it can make all the difference come the end of the season. Then Super Venturi fighting for that Super League, their first ever Super League title. You've got to say you're on target for it at the moment.
Yes, I think our targets for this season is pretty clearly that Jan winning the Drivers' Championship and as a team trying to win the Teams' Championship. The thing is just, I think, with our upgrade choices, we have made our life very difficult for us because the last couple races already we have been fighting with a couple then slower car than most of the other people. So, I mean, let's put it this way. I think last time out in Spain and even here, I think it was sort of just damage limitation. And both times we have been able to even be one of the highest scoring teams. So I think we have done very well after the disaster in Canada.
Indeed, and that's exactly what I said to Jan as well. Final thoughts then. Silverstone is next up. Last time we went there in Super League, you finished P2, if I'm not very much mistaken. You had a really strong race actually, in a very it was a wet dry sort of race where it kept raining and then stopped raining. And I think it was you and Jan that really managed that race fairly well, even though of course it was another one that Edgy Sports obviously stole from you. But are you feeling confident going in there? Do you think you can maybe get some great points out of that one?
I certainly hope so. Silverstone is my favorite track on the entire calendar, and it's also one of the best, if not the best track for me. So even though the car might not be necessarily completely on par with others yet, we should getting very important upgrades there as well. So I think overall, I'm certainly hoping to be a bit more on the same pace as Jan there and trying to get a very good result for the team.
Excellent. Hope springs eternal, as they say, and I'm sure everyone is really looking forward to seeing you in action at Silverstone. So thank you very much for coming to talk to us, Ukapeka.
Thank you.
Right, so as we let Ukapeka Lalu, our last interviewee, leave the commentary box then, it's time for me to close out the broadcast. So a fantastic fight between Mark Schluter and Jan Grankvist, but it's the German who takes his second career victory in Super League. Grankvist still leads, of course, that Drivers' Championship by 40 points. First half of the season gone. We've still got another 8 races left to go, and it's anyone's guess who is going to be our Drivers' Champion by the time we get to the end of Brazil in November. But I've been Edward Hunter. I was joined tonight by Ryan, Elliott, and of course Vincent Gutt in broadcast direction. Thanks to all our teams and drivers for putting on a spectacular show in the Styrian Mountains here in Spielberg in Austria. And thanks, of course, lastly to you for watching here at GPVWC. Good night.